What's up, everyone? Thanks for joining us on the PBD live feed, episode 10. Can't believe I've done 10 of these already. Thanks to those of you guys who have been joining us since the beginning. We've got started the new guest format here recently. We've got Dustin Whipple, of course, from Whipple Superchargers, scheduled to come on this evening. We also have Andrew from Mustang Lifestyle and Cody also. Both of those guys have the new 3.8 liter Whipple. Cody's car is just now getting running, but you know, it is running. Hopefully it'll be getting down the track soon. So thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Let's see who we got in here. Sorry, I was rushing last minute. I literally ran to my desk to hit start on this, so had to take a drink. Let's say hi to everybody. AP, we can talk about questions in a little bit. Revit Racing, thanks for being here. Miguel, what's up, Nick? There's some Whipple royalty down there in Texas. Nick's got one of the fastest 10 or 80 Whipple cars out there. What's up, Mustang Lifestyle? Is Andrew, Jeff, Terry, all the Whipple guys in here. Nostradamus Racing, what's up? We got a lot of people in here today. Hey, guys. Ben, Mike, Mr. Truck Whipple guy. I'm going to post about your truck, I promise. I have a list of like 10 vehicles I have to get caught up on posting. Yours is at the top of that list, but I've got some other fast GT500 guys we'll show you some video of today, but I haven't really been posting much about all that. I do have somebody that's going to be helping me with getting some of that stuff up here soon. What's up, Ken Barrett? Boosted F-150, what's up? Ben's loving his Whipple tune. We just did a Whipple on his car. It's a stick shift 17 performance pack car, and it really rips. We'll be doing some videos with that, along with his wife has a Hellion stick shift car, so we'll be doing some comparisons there. They're both great setups. Hey, how about this, Tyler Olson? We just banned you from the channel. How about that? He doesn't seem to like Andrew from Mustang Lifestyle, and we do, so he's gone. Anyway, Terry Day, what's up? All right, guys. So we got a nice amount of people in here already. We're going to be talking Whipple today, but first, let's talk about some GT500 stuff. We had a couple fast guys recently. Let's see. First one I want to show you guys. Hold on. I'm dealing with a new setup here. I'm not sure what the hell I'm doing, honestly. Hold on. Let's see if this works. Okay, sorry about that. Here's Sean. Miguel, thanks for the tip. Appreciate it. I've got the rest of the merchandise will be up tomorrow. We've got some polo shirts. We got some new versions of this. And we already have polos. Or excuse me, the sweatshirts up there. I don't have the time slip handy, but that is a, sorry guys, I'm having a little problem here with my new setup. Anyway, that is a, sorry, everything's in backwards. This new thing I'm trying. Not working very good. Anyway, that was a 960 at I think 148. Oh no, that was maybe 144. The car short shifted. If you don't update your tire size on these vehicles, and you can't do it via the tune, sometimes you have shifting problems. So we're gonna get that fixed up on Sean's car, and he's actually gonna be at an ACO rental with the 1320 guys. Sean's is a that's a Joker's blower, and here's another one. This is Mark Gallert. He also has a Joker's blower. Those are 20-inch wheels, obviously, with some drag radials. That was a 970 at 148. Hey, Jess, what's up? James Birch. Yeah, I need a computer tuner. Now, actually, what I'm doing is I noticed on the last live feed, I spent all my time looking down here. So I don't have any way to show you, but I'm way overdoing this. And I was running so far behind on, honestly. I wasn't expecting this till tomorrow. I wasn't planning on using it tonight, but I bought a teleprompter. But instead of broadcasting up the text up there, I'm broadcasting one of my monitors. So once we get on the live feed or the live conversation with Dustin and the other guys, I can be looking up here and seeing them and talking to them face to face. Problem is, I didn't get all the mirroring and everything figured out. I got it working pretty good, and it's going to work fine for the video call, but it's backwards left to right, so the mouse doesn't really work. Anyway, let's go down here, look at a couple comments, and then all right, hold on one sec, guys. We got Dustin over here waiting in the on deck. I can see Dustin, but they can't. We're going to get to Dustin here in just a second. All right, guys. So let's just go ahead and bring Dustin on. Sorry, I'm going to have to fix this backwards mouse thing. This is a lot harder, especially when you're live on YouTube. All right. Sorry. Crap. I'm just trying to get the window set up right before we can't get the one window to go away. There we go. Dun, 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 dun. How anti-dramatic was that? Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Let's welcome Dustin Whipple here, all the way from California. He probably just got off work, or are you still at work? Looks like you got some stuff. Yeah, I figured so. Still at work in the background. Obviously, a lot of you guys know we've got big news with the 3.8 liter Whipple coming, but there's already big news that we've been talking about. We've been talking about Whipple just about every week on the live feed here, and a lot of you guys know that 3.0 has really come, really showing us what Whipple's capable of doing by continually revising their product and updating it. It was an incredible blower when they started on it. They keep making constant revisions to it, and that's the result in cars like Nick and Carlos's car. A lot of that information's getting pushed over to the 3.8 liter, but you know, Whipple's been around a long time, and I know a lot of you guys know the name Whipple, but they may not know a lot about Whipple. Obviously, we have Dustin Whipple here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the history of Whipple Superchargers for those guys that don't really know the details, Dustin?
Yeah, we started back in 1987. Is my dad's company. I was just a little kid at the point, and there's an old drag racer, and he wanted to get into making race superchargers for drag racing. And the way to prove the concept was to build a little supercharger because it was easier to obviously control and prove the concept first. And that kind of just spiraled into an aftermarket company. It wasn't actually really intended for it. It was supposed to be for racing. And then, at the time I really loved racing, but I wasn't really, I didn't know much about cars because, just young kid. So I went to school and worked every day in between. So I drove back and forth to college, and I learned a lot. And I have actually had every job here. I've cleaned the floors, washed the cars, all the way to making harnesses and mapping cars, mapping boats, everything. So I've done a little bit of everything here. So over the last 10, 15 years, I've really helped push the company to the next level, where before it was a smaller company, and now we've really grown to up to 60 employees now.
Wow, I didn't realize you guys had that many people there. That's amazing. I think I knew the racing part, but it's kind of interesting that that's where it started. So like originally it was intended to like compete like on like alcohol cars and like what they run the big screw car, the really huge screw blowers on. And then,
exactly. The Top Fuel was the main one because, those teams all had 10 to 12 Roots blowers. So it was a good business model, right? Is to sell each guy 10 to 12 blowers that they had to buy, constantly more and more of. And then there was a company called PSI that had made one just before us. And the Top Fuel teams kind of all banded together to actually ban the screw compressor. And it really changed our model. So we had to actually veer and go to the alcohol cars where they made it legal, but they made a bunch of rules they had never done before. They had made the Supercharger, the part to level the playing ground, kind of like what NHR is doing now with the Cobra Jets, is they just change the pulley whenever you go too fast. Whether you have a good combo, you spend more money, it doesn't really matter. They just slow you down. And so that wasn't really fun. So then we really had to focus on, a better business because the racing at that time was not going to be real profitable.
Yeah, the interesting part to me on that topic actually is I didn't really realize it at the time, but I guess I was really coming into this business when Whipple was really making its big push forward, or at least I think so. Was that like the early 2000s?
Yeah, exactly. That's when it really, that's when I was really trying to, grow the company and try to push. And
when, I know Lethal was a big part of that too. That's around when they kind of started. So we all kind of started around the same time, not Whipple, but the big push.
Yeah, exactly.
But the cool thing about that is, and not just your blower, but any blower like that back then, you would never see it on a race car. When I say race cars, I'm talking at Anna Marais. And when I'm saying race cars, heads up. Yep. And now, fast forward 15 plus years, and, there's Whipple blowers and NMRA Renegade. Brian Wolf is building an ultra street car with a Whipple supercharger. I mean, that's amazing. Not that a Whipple supercharger is not up to that. It's just not a race blower. So you kind of are taking a street blower and turning it into a race blower just because it happens to be that badass, even though you can run it on the street, So I think that's really cool. Like you can't take most race blowers and put them on the street. You're taking a street blower and putting it into a race. That's super cool to me. It's kind of the same thing as like racing a Mustang versus racing like, a tube chassis car. You're racing like what these guys are racing what a lot of people here have at home, or a version of that at least. Obviously there's some differences with the Cobra Jet blower, for instance, and what some of the racers run, but it's nothing that anybody can't buy and put on their car, really.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up for Whipple. Obviously, the 3-liter has been huge for the company. I mean, everything has been for a long time. I mean, you guys have just been hitting home run after home run, all the 2.9 stuff. Now then the Gen 5 3-liter, and like the latest blower on Carlos's car completely blew my mind. I mean, I keep talking about it, but I mean, it legitimately was about 100 horsepower more than I expected with the pulley that we had on it, and maybe more than you expected. I don't know. You seemed a little bit impressed, but I know you see a lot more than I do. I see what I do, but you see what all the other tuners are doing, Cobra Jet guys, all kinds of projects. I heard you guys bought a Pro Mod car. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, or what your plan is with that. But anyway, let's talk about like what's coming up. Now we know we're going to have Andrew and Cody on here real soon with the 3.8. Tell us a little bit about the 3.8, what led to the 3.8, and like what your expectations are out of that.
Yeah, we wanted we think a good market is to have what we consider a big small blower, oxymoron, but the big blowers that we had done in the past, they were just so big and bulky, and you can never really spin them to the RPM that you really needed to be, because they were just too big. So you had really high boost levels at really low blower speeds, which is not an ideal for any kind of positive displacement supercharger. So the 3.8 was kind of like maximizing what we could fit under a hood, and basically maximizing the power for mainly the Coyotes and the Hellcats. Those are the main markets that we feel will be there. And the Coyote flows so much air, and it's very linear all the way up in RPM, and so the bigger blower is really going to make a big difference there. So maybe LS applications because you can do big cubic inch now with LS. But the 3.8 is basically, we took all that we knew from we had learned from the 3-liter, plus quite a few new things that we had actually established, and applied that to the 3.8, the inverted design. The older GT500 was more of just, we already have a kit, and we want to, discontinue some of the older supercharger designs to go to the new one because they're just so superior. So that was just kind of a kit to, make it fit in those applications. But in general, the upside down inverted superchargers are definitely the future.
Yeah, and I think that's a super big point. I was going to bring it up, but you brought it up first. This is just the beginning. That's like a retrofit almost. It's like the new blower, but it's limited pretty heavily by the lower intake. It's the same lower intake we've had. There's guys out there doing all kinds of work. I don't know. Do you know if he has much work to that? I'm not really sure. Done to the lower.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're going to have him on in a few minutes, so we'll talk about that later in a few. But yeah, the inverted design. I mean, you have an actual runner you have to deal with, so tell us a little bit about that. I mean, I don't want to get too technical here, but and I don't want you to give away too many of your secrets, but there's some general principles there. I think, at least, I haven't really talked to you about this, but you're basically making the compressor more efficient and work better at higher speeds. You may give up a little bit down low, but now you're adding a runner back in to kind of help with that. Am I kind of, because most of the blowers in the past, positive displacement blowers never had runners because they're just that common plenum in the bottom, and that's it. And now in the newer blowers, we have a runner because they're upside down. So is that kind of, am I on the right track there? Is the advantage there?
Yeah, so the original 3-liters had basically no runner, just had a nice little radius on the entry, but we did find that roughly a 2.5 to 3 inch runner helps on the low speed, so it brings up the torque, but there's no disadvantage on the high speed. If you get too much longer than that, then you really start, getting torque, but you give up a lot of horsepower, so we didn't want to do that. So so we put a little bit of a runner in the newer 3-liter and the 3.8 versions.
Right, and then just in general, that upside down design gives you lots of different benefits. Obviously, let's talk about your new intercooler. The new intercooler, you couldn't do that type of setup at all with the traditional blower.
Exactly. Yeah, the inverted, there's a couple major designs. Is first, when you're going top mount, you're going down into the V, so you're trying to pressurize into your smallest area and then try to bring it back up. So you just have a lot of resistance on the way in. Upside down, you're actually blowing into the the biggest section of the motor, so you can actually split it up into 2 banks, and so you have a lot less pressure drop. And of course, in that area, you could fill it all up with intercooler. So our newest design was a dual core, dual pass, so the air goes through each core 2 times, and we got an extra water fitting in there compared to before, where before it was 2 in, 1 out. Now it's 2 in, 2 out, all 1 inch. Although we necked down to 3/4 for normal kits, but for racing, you can still go up to 1 inch. So you can dual 1 inch, dual in and out. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the things I like about how you do stuff is you kind of set up the, you're not designing a kit that's just to your specification where it doesn't grow. I mean, it's always grown with power, but things like thinking ahead and making everything 1 inch, even though the car is not going to be 1 inch, because that's kind of hard on a everyday street car, and not everybody wants to do that, but the ability is there. And you've done that with your products for the 2020 GT500. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit about what's coming for the 2020 GT500, maybe some guesstimates on time frame, and then we'll take some questions from everybody on you.
Yeah, the 2020 GT500, it's taken us longer than expected, but we had made quite a few little changes, and we have so many kits coming out kind of almost all at the same time between Hellcat and Hemi upgrades, LF 7.3.
We don't care about that here.
Yeah.
Well, 7.3 we do.
So between that and COVID slowed us down a little bit, just because the whole supply chain in the world basically has slowed down a little bit. But the 3.8 GT500 prototypes will be here just a couple more weeks, and then production we're hoping to do before the end of the year. So we're trying to get the first 100 kits out before the end of the year.
Cool, very cool. I mean, for those people wondering on my personal car. Obviously, I've been pushing the stock blower quite a bit, further than I expected to be honest with you. But the Whipple's still going to provide that next level. And, all the porting is great. Our billet lid is great. That's going to help, or that's going to make a lot of people happy. But you have a decent amount of an investment in that to get to that point. I mean, it adds up. So It's not really like a power thing for me as far as like, do I need the Whipple? It's really, it's the stock blower, stock porting is going to appeal to the guy that wants to keep the 100% stock looking vehicle or mostly stock looking vehicle to me. The guy that's after just ultimate insane, like I want to win power. It's going to be Whipple, because that even happened to me, to be honest with you. It's not that I wasn't going to put your blower on my car, but I wasn't sure of the time frame of it, and now here comes Texas, up in March, and they have this new class called the DCT class. And I'm looking at my dyno graph, like I can barely make 1100. And then, we have Andrew just bust off 1225 on slicks. And I'm like, well, that settles it. There's no way I could do that with a stock blower. It's just not going to happen. So put me on the list. Anyway, let's look at a couple questions here. And then we'll probably bring Andrew in. Let's see. You guys don't do any kind of, you guys don't do anything like that, obviously, straight flex tuning. No. Somebody asked about flex tuning. On our tuning, a flex tune, I don't like doing supercharged flex tuning, period. It gets a little complicated. Some people do offer that. It's not my favorite thing. So we do not do that. We offer both tunes, but you got to change the tune. Javi says I'm using a Biden teleprompter. No, mine's nicer. Like his was on a laptop screen. I literally have it looks like a television. I'll have to take a picture of it in a minute. I don't have my phone handy. Anyway, it's working pretty good, except everything's mirrored. So when it's video, it's great. I can look Dustin in the eye when I'm talking to him, and I'm not looking down. But when it comes time to play a video or close a window, forget it. All right. Anyway, Cookie Monster says, what's up from Texas? Whipple for the win. Everybody, we got a lot of Texas people in here. Anybody have any questions specifically for Dustin on anything to do with Whipple Superchargers? It doesn't have to be just related to GT500, or really, if you want to talk about Hemis, we can talk about that. Somebody asked about a true rear feed for 0304 Cobra. I'm not sure what he's asking about there. Do you know what that means? True rear feed.
Yeah, the kind of like what we've done some on the race applications where we make a billet inlet and both the throttle body on.
Like out of the cowl kind of deal? Like where it's just a... Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We have a dual 109 millimeter throttle body coming that's going to be universal for all the 3.8 liters. So that'll be nice.
Yeah, awesome. Some guy was asking about the 7.3 Whipple. I know you guys were waiting on some new parts for that to get it to fit under the hood. Obviously, Brian has one on his setup, but that's a race application. What kind of time frame are we looking at on the 7.3?
I think this would be somewhere around January. The housing is already cast. We made a new housing that's modular, so it allows us to change runners and inlets. So the 7.3 is part of that package. So we think it'll be around January time.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. For those of you guys that don't know, I have a 7.3 also. I bought specifically to learn about the 7.3 and the new 10-speed, which is very similar to the Mustang 10-speed, but tuning on that, and of course that's going to get a Whipple on it when the time comes. Dallas asks, any plans for an inverted blower on the LS3 LS7 platforms?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 3-liter and 3.8 are coming. Inverted design. It's already all designed. It's just in the manufacturing stage right now.
Now on those kind of setups, you're dealing with even a tighter hood setup on like the Corvettes. Does something like that still fit under a hood, or no? You need a hood.
Yeah, it will have multiple options of lids and cores. So the base version will fit under hoods, whereas the taller entry will be more for like universal applications, racing, hot rods, that kind of stuff.
Terry Day asks, when can we order the 3.8 for the 5.0? Are you going to start taking orders anytime in the near future?
I'm thinking, hasn't been announced, but I'm thinking during some holiday sales probably will be probably a good time for it.
Terry doesn't really need the 3.8 yet. He just wants to get in line. Terry's getting Carlos's old blower. That's the car that I spoke to you about. He went 9.3 first time out at FL2K with his totally street setup. Let's see what else we have here. 3.2 Whipple. Let's talk about that. I didn't know that was out in the wild, people talking about it, but I've heard about it enough that I'll bring it up here. He brought it up. Let's talk about that a little bit. Unless you don't want to.
There's definitely some new things coming. We haven't fully released, the size and the generation of it, but definitely some new Superchargers coming. We're waiting for our competition to, release theirs, and then there'll be a whole slew just to wreck their days. So
yeah. It's an interesting number. You picked 3.2. It comes right after 3.1. I don't know why you would pick that.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Let's keep going. Let's see. Blue Edge Mock asks, what's the difference on the Gen 5 3-liter and the 3.8 Andrew has? Well, there's obviously the size difference in the compressor, the 3.8 versus the 3.0. And then, when you're comparing blowers, this is a good way to really bring up the competition a little bit, which is the TVS blower. Everybody says TVS this, TVS isn't a blower. It's a set of, what do you want to call it? Screws, rotors, whatever the proper term is for it. And you can make or break those completely off of the housing. A good example of that is the 2018 Roush. What I was going to call it something bad there, but I'm not. Anyway, that's a perfect example of a company designing something specifically for what it has to do, and that's it. It didn't do anything more. There was no expandability there, nothing. I mean, they didn't cover anything on that.
Yeah, they designed it for their horsepower that they wanted, and that was it.
I mean, compare that to my 2020 GT500. It's the same rotors, but even bone stocking, if you don't even take in the porting that we did into account, you could still make 900-ish on race gas. You're not going to do that on a Roush.
No way.
Yeah,
melting valves.
No. Anyway, let's keep looking here. This is an interesting question because these cars are on my radar someday, although you don't really see supercharging too much in that world. I've seen some supercharged Lambos. I don't know who's doing that. Have you ever looked into the exotic market?
Yeah, we have a partner at ESS Tuning that does some Lambo kits and some Audi R8 kits.
So is that kind of a deal where you supply some of the parts and then they kind of like finish it off? Yeah,
exactly. Usually we won't build a kit unless we have full, support on the calibration side. So, some of the exotics are, you can tune them, but it's
so what you're saying is I need to buy one so I can tune them for you.
Exactly.
All right. I'm going to tell Brandy, are you watching? Dustin said I have to buy a Lambo. I'll buy an Audi. They're cheaper.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's see. Obviously you probably don't know this exactly, but, you have any kind of ballpark you want to throw out there on a 2020 GT500 3.8 kit or no? I mean, let's talk about that for a second before whether you're going to put a number on it or not. You can't compare this to the upgrade on, say, Andrew's car, because on Andrew's car or any earlier GT500, you're just swapping the blower, maybe the throttle body and those sorts of things. But, on the 2020, you're at least also adding an intercooler into that, right? Yeah, exactly. Well, really, it's the whole assembly because you're also using the lower manifold from a 2014 GT500. You're basically replacing that whole assembly. So there's a lot more to it.
Yep. Yeah. We haven't done it all yet. We've just been going so fast. It's that we haven't had time to really even look at it. But we think it's going to be in the $6,000 to $7,000 range on the retail side.
Okay.
So it'll be very affordable. It's not going to be. The good news is that everything that we've done the last few years has been to cut costs, and it's going to be very competitive.
Yeah, I'm gonna put you on the spot here too, because this is live. We need a heat exchanger with 1-inch ins and outs. It doesn't even need to be that much bigger, but like we're upgrading everything else to 1-inch. I just ran 1-inch line in my car to the back for the trunk, but at the end of the day, it's got to go through the heat exchanger. Plus, we might be able to make it better. I mean, I think you'll sell it just because it's 1-inch lines, but hopefully it works better because, I mean, some of it's the blower. I mean, we're going to obviously, on something like that, you would just reuse the stock heat exchanger, I assume. I mean, if you sell one, you can, you can still use a Whipple one, but
exactly
the main kit uses the stock heat exchanger. Probably don't need an upgraded one with your blower, but the TVS gets pretty hot.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we're seeing like on lightly modified ones with the stock system, we're seeing, without your intercooler upgrade or any of that, we see like 160 plus degrees. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, that's up there. Yeah.
Terry says hi. Big shout out to Whipple and PBD. Terry, Road Cone Terry.
What's up, Terry?
Jordan says he's jumping from a 3-liter Gen 5 to a 3.8 Gen 5 10-speed. I assume you need a built motor to truly appreciate the gains. Yeah. I mean, the 3.0, I mean, consider this. We just went 171 miles an hour with a 10-speed car. It's a little bit light, but it also wasn't turned all the way up. So I think even on a more realistically weighed car, like 38 or 3,900 pounds, you're still in the high 160 trap speed range with a 3.0, which is going to require a built motor already. So I don't, the 3.0
we wouldn't recommend it for anything that's stock unless it's E85 and you're pushing a stock motor, on E85.
Well, we just had this conversation earlier today on the GT500, and I assume it's going to apply to the GT as well, as far as minimum boost.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So that's a consideration on the 3.8. You're only, it's such a big blower that you could put the biggest pulley possible on it. And do you think that number we were talking about would apply to a GT? We were talking about GT 500, but do you think 17 pounds is about the minimum?
That's what I'm thinking.
We don't even know. It could be even higher. Like you're still playing, these kind of things get played with. So don't take anything you hear as gospel. Consider the fact that you're hearing it at all as a nice thing, but some things may change here. But right now, you could probably say for sure that it's never going to go below 17 pounds.
It would be, you'd have to have a heck of a motor to get below 17, PSI. So that becomes the issue is that, pump gas is out of the question unless you lower the compression like a GT500 already has.
Yeah, we're talking about on a GT on the 17 PSI. On a GT500, we think we should be able to run pump gas no problem. But with the Mustang GT, especially the 18 plus, what is it, 12 and a half? I always forget. 12 and a half to 1.
We run 10 and a half on stage 1. And, compression 12 to 1. Yeah, 12 to 1 now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the if you run E85, we have some guys obviously running E85 and running around the 18, 20 PSI range, with long tubes, everything. In that application, then a 3.8 would be worthwhile. But, for stock motor, it's, on gas, it's just not feasible. Yeah,
and I find this all the time happen. It happened, when the 4.5 and the 4.0 came out. Everybody wanted it because it was so huge. Real quick, let's talk about that because that's one thing you pointed out to me that was interesting. And then when the blower got there, it was really obvious in person, is the difference between, making the rotors, the screws longer versus bigger in diameter. Like that, there's very big difference between how you got to the 4.5 or 4.0 versus the 3.8. They look completely different.
Yeah, the limitation always before was us. We struggled to get gears. We got special gears out of Italy for forever, and we really had trouble sourcing them in the U.S. at a reasonable price, at a good quality that we do, because the gears control just about everything. So if you don't have good gears, you don't have a good supercharger. So back in the day, we extended the rotors, which also helped with hood height by keeping the rotor height down. But we definitely suffered in performance that way. As far as the most efficient way is definitely L/D ratio to keep that as short as possible. So you want to keep the rotor. We always tease them and joke around calling them the tuna can rotors, but you really want to keep them nice and short to keep the efficiency up.
Right. Absolutely. Sorry, I had one little problem here with my computer. All right, let's go ahead. I want to watch this video of Andrew's car. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Hell yes!
That's a big jump.
I didn't expect that. I didn't even look at the graph. That was work 3 days ago.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right. And the 3 days of hell, let's Andrew's getting in here now. Let's bring him in. I can't, everything's backwards. Sorry, guys. I can't even read it. I think that says allow. See what happens. Here he comes. What's up, Andrew? Can you hear us? Uh-oh. Can you hear us? I don't think that's working. And the dogs are barking. This is going great. I don't think he can hear us. Maybe you could try it with your phone. You can't hear him, right, Dustin?
No.
No, I don't think he can hear us. Yep. I just heard something there for a second, I thought.
Yep, it should be working now.
There we go. All right, there we go. All right, cool. Well, we just saw that video at the end. You saw me say how it was 3 days of hell, not because of the blower, but when you're dealing with something like making this kind of power, there's a lot that goes into it, and we really were fighting the stock tensioner, which Dustin's going to help us resolve that, I think, maybe with a tensioner for those model years. The 2020 is similar, but not exactly. We did wind up getting the vehicle to run on the 2020 tensioner just to get done because we didn't have anything else to use, but don't put one of those on your 2014 and earlier. It needs modification, and even then, it's caused some issues.
They look identical.
Yeah, they look identical. It fit. I mean, that pull, it was on that pull. So
yeah,
it's a 1,226 horsepower tensioner, that's for sure. But no, it didn't go down the track very well. But anyway, let's talk to Andrew here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how that week went? A little recap I videotaped most of it. I haven't had a chance to put out a video. I probably still will, but why don't you give everybody a little bit of a recap of what went down?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously we had a little bit of a crunch time just putting the blower on. Putting the blower on. We took about 2 days to put it on. And then, we got the car down there and we were having, spark blowout issues, belt issues. I was trying to get a dyno tire, for the car. So we wouldn't dyno on brand new bias plies, which we know were at least 50 wheel horsepower down on power.
We were so desperate to get wheels on that car that I grabbed a set of my RTRs, which, they're not in the best shape, but they're okay wheels. And I just started, because he has 5/8 studs, so I was like, let's just drill these. And I drilled them all out before I even looked at them to realize there's no way it would go on over the studs, but the lug nuts wouldn't go on. So anyway, keep going. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I got a glorious video of that somewhere, but of just drilling out some RTR wheels. But yeah, we were desperate to try to get something on there because it was hopping around on the dyno too. You know, Rob said it was a little bit of a wild ride. So we were trying to figure that out, and then we were having the belt issue and tensioner issues, and then I think we put like a 375 pulley on once. The first time we were kind of like, okay, what's going on here? We went 375 to 325 and picked up 200 wheel horsepower. So, and then we were kind of just getting inconsistent, results that didn't make sense. And we tried chasing the 325 pulley to the 3.0 pulley, wondering why the boost is not where it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, when we went from the 325 to the 3.0, I think the boost in power, it looked like the same exact pull, like in boost, and we weren't slipping the belt at that point.
Yeah, picked up 10 wheel horsepower on that, and we were like, all right, like we know we got a tire on here that's soft, but there's no way that's causing just such minimal gains. So we ended up putting the DD 149 on, and instantly we saw what was it, 1175 or so.
Yeah, the very first pull, it picked up, I think it picked up like 60 something horsepower, just like 100% back to back. Other than that's not a fair back to back because you have to change the mass error curve, and the fueling was definitely a little tricky. As you can hear in that video, the tip-in was all messed up. That's why it's popping and cracking like that. But yeah, I mean, it was an instant pickup, and the graph was really obvious why it picked up, because before we made any major changes to the tune, because we did wind up well over 100 over, but we made changes to the tune that did affect that. But the back-to-back test, it was a direct trace over, except the very top. The 60 horsepower was at the top, which is where a legitimate claim for gains is on an inlet on a blower. That's what kills these blowers. I mean, there's lots of ways you can use that on purpose to limit power and that we play with in the tune, but when you're trying to make max power, yeah, I mean, it's got to be. That's why we go with the big throttle bodies, right? I mean, obviously, we go with these huge throttle bodies, but if we've been running into this. This is a perfect example of why ultimately the Whipple is going to be superior, which is no stretch, really. But the proof is 100% in the inlet of the from the stock GT500 2020 to any Whipple is the inlet. The inlet of the 2020 GT500 blower is subpar because they did make some compromises there, and we port them. And Jokers has done crazy stuff. So has Jason. Everybody has, and they keep pushing it. But unless you cut that flange off, you're limited to probably, if you wanted to get extreme, like Kong has theirs at 108. We have ours at 105, maybe 110, maybe. And that's just not enough. I mean, you know that, Dustin. What's your your standard throttle body for any of these applications is,
132.
132.
Yeah.
So
right. And then 150, and that was one issue too with the JLT intake is made for the old oval shaped throttle body, which ours is now the Roval, right? So it was really pinched on the high and low side where the highest velocity is going to be. And so I think separate from just pure size, that just matching up to our throttle body is, a portion of the issue that they had there. And definitely the DD 149 is just, massive, which is awesome.
Yeah, I don't think people quite understand throttle body requirements and inlet requirements on a blower like this as compared to like everything else that we use to make boosts, right? Like a Vortec or a turbo. I mean, there's gains maybe with larger throttle bodies, but not much. I mean, I ran a stock throttle body on my 2011 twin turbo car to 1200 horsepower. I mean, that's common because you're blowing through it versus sucking through it. Like it's just like a fuel pump, You could get away with a small fuel line afterwards sometimes, but you're never going to get away with a small line before the fuel pump. Right?
Exactly.
Because you're starving it, and it's not going to work how it's meant to work.
Yeah.
Robert,
that's why the that's why the front feed always does better than the rear feed too. Is the rear feed is always starving because you just can't get the air around the turn fast enough. You know?
I'll tell you what though, that elbow, I mean, it's still making that turn, of course, and the DD 149 helps.
Big time.
But like when that came and I was looking in where the throttle body goes, it's like you don't even have to like peek around a corner to see the rotors. I mean, they're just right there, like a big wall. But anyway, back to Andrew here. So we eventually, I mean, I can't even. I tried to sit down and list how many times you had that. For what made it extra complicated was he has the MFP crank support, and I don't blame him for this. He didn't want to do dyno pulls without it, which we also probably would have needed some bolts we didn't have for the pulleys that have to get put on without the crank support. Plus, you know, the whole point of the crank support is to make sure you don't have any problems. Plus, we're having belt issues. Who knows? So we wanted to put it on every time. And how many times do you think we had it on and off? Well, not me, you did it mostly.
It had to have been, 15 times. And I'll say, like, going into the first time I took it off, I was like a little slow at taking it off, and then it got faster and faster. But I mean, that was a lot of work. And with all the, the tensioner, the stock aluminum tensioner, I'm sure anybody who has a GT500 knows they're so easy to strip because it's a 3/8 end. So that's really what happened. We went to go switch down to the 325 to 30 pulley, and that's when I think Ken had a breaker bar on it and just went circle. So we kind of got the 30 on it, and then we're like, crap, now we need another tensioner. And then we're like, okay, well, let's try the Whipple one. And then we kind of went back and forth trying to figure out, okay, what's this hitting, and all sorts of different things. We also didn't talk about the fact that we had the bypass valve, the low vacuum bypass valve, vacuum reference, not boost reference initially.
Yep.
Which is the reason why we continued it the first time we came down. Then we came down a second time and had a bunch of belt issues. And the third time, we had more belt issues.
Yeah, that's another thing to point out. Andrew makes the trip down to Palm Beach, which is probably towing 3 hours plus, right?
Yeah, usually like 3.5 hours. When I don't have the trailer, like I did one time, I was able to cruise at a good rate.
Yeah. So just to even say like one time, like, man, it's just not going to get done. So like the first time you left it 100%, and then we were going to try and fix it, then have you come back, and we were close. And then I think it was like Tuesday. I'm like, all right, come on down. I was very confident we were going to get fixed. And then you came back 2 more times after that, I think, right? I think you were there 4 times. It was the first time, then you left it, came back, and then I think you went home 2 more times.
Yeah, there was one trip I came down and we made like one dyno pull, and I didn't even film anything else. I think I took the crank support off like a few times, and like I was looking back at the footage and I'm like, there was nothing filmed on this day, but I'm like, there was stuff that we did.
That explains this video that you saw. I don't ever get that excited about anything at all. But like, it got to the point, and I've been in this position before, more in racing than on the dyno, but where you're just like, can anything else go wrong? And like something else goes wrong and you just grit your teeth and go, I guess we're going to take it back apart again, and then a lot of times it never works out, or you just, maybe it works out months down the road. But that night it was quite a payoff to see that 1,200 number on that deal. Let's look at, let's talk about what wound up with the car. So, everybody saw the video. We struggled, but we thought we were in pretty good shape to go to the track. I didn't even talk to you recently. I didn't get a chance to watch your recent video. I've been super crazy busy. So why don't you tell everybody what happened from there?
All right. So we made the 1226, and this might be interesting to talk about. We saw some, slight leaning out on that pole. So we made another pole after that, and then fueling looked good. So we're like, all right. I said, I'm like, hey, look, obviously we don't have a hood for this thing, but should we just ship it right to the track and on full throttle? Fueling should be good. So pretty much took the car right from there. Pretty much planned to do a big burnout on the tires because the tires are pretty chewed up from the dyno. And went to go make a first pass. It was like a 10.3 at 135. The belt snapped at like 130 miles an hour. So, we rolled to the finish, and then I was like, all right, shoot, I don't know why it's snapping a belt, but I said to Cody, I said, do you want to put it in the trailer, or do we want to change the belt and take this crank support off? And so we went and did that. We swapped the belt. I pulled up the logs and into Ken, and I was like, well, shoot, it's going lean again. And, so obviously we got something to figure out. I said, all right, well, there was a vacuum line that came off the, the boost reference for the regulator. We're like, okay, maybe that's it. We're like, okay, well, let's lower boost, because obviously load's different from dyno to the track to the street. So we did a few things. We lowered the boost from 3.0 to 3.25 pulley, and we put another belt on it, made sure the vacuum line was on, and we put some zip ties on the vacuum line. And then rather than going right to make a pass, we went out on the street of OSW, which actually have a funny story. I was in the driver's seat. I had someone in the passenger seat with a laptop pulled up, so that we could see some data live stream. They could scream at me to, get out of it if it starts going lean. So we leave OSW, go right by a Florida Highway Patrol who was at the gate, kind of just hanging out. And we're like, hey, we'll be right back. And he's sitting on the floor with the laptop open, so he knows what's up. So we go out, take a right, go down, whatever road that is out in Orlando, and then we make a third gear hit. It feels really fast, starts spinning third. And I was like, all right, well, we didn't really get very much good data because we were spinning, but it didn't lean out. Made one more hit, and I realized we came up on OSW really quick, and I said, screw it. Made another third gear hit, spun really bad, then grabbed fourth, and then finally got some good data without some spinning. And then I realized we flew right by OSW. And I was like, that cop definitely just heard us just fly by. So I'm like, all right, screw it. Let's go roll back in there. We roll back in there. Of course, the car's loud, open cutouts and everything. And I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, all right, you're good. Just go ahead in. He didn't say anything. He was cool. So looked at the log. We were good. Fueling wise, 0.76, 0.78 lambda. So we're like, all right, let's go make a pass. It should be good. Everything broke on track. Super almost hit the wall. Another car blew up right in front of me. Someone else hit the wall. So OSW was really just a mess. So I go to make a pass, and we waited like 2 hours to make this pass. Go to launch, and it doesn't even hook up at all. So I back it up. And then I'm like, all right, let's go make it. Let's make a pass. I'm like, I'll just leave really easy. Did the same thing, spun the tires. I'm like, all right, screw it. Let's get a track speed at least. So I lay into it first, lay into it second. And then on the third gear, coolant all over the windshield. And I'm like, great. I actually thought it might have been oil too. So I thought we might have blown some stuff up. But looks like we broke a belt. Again, and then that wrapped around, grabbed the coolant line off, which threw coolant all over the place. And on top of that, it looks like our fuel pressure dropped, which we got to figure out what's going on. So we got a bunch of issues with the car, and
but we think the engine's okay, right? As far as we know.
Yeah, we looked at it, pulled the plugs. The plugs are dry. I turned the car right off on track too, so we can see some good timing marks on the plugs. Those were dry. Looking down to the the cylinder walls look good, pistons look good, everything's dry. So started it up, everything sounds good. So I think we got lucky. And I mean, we were only in like first, second, third gear with some spinning, and then we were only really into it, second gear at higher RPM, where we started to see that lean out issue, which it could be pump going bad, maybe intermittent pump. But we just got a lot of figuring out to do. Really just go through the car front to back, figure out the the belt situation. We're gonna swap out the tensioner.
And we did a lot. We were doing a lot of working on the car. We probably need to go over some of the vacuum lines and make sure everything, like other than over by the regulator where the come out of the blower, and we're connecting to that. Just we were working on so much stuff. Go over that stuff, but obviously you got the right recipe there. For the power, so we just have to get it down the track.
Exactly.
Speaking of getting it down the track, let's talk about another car real quick. I assume Dustin knows about this guy because he has a 3.8 liter. And how many 3.8 liters are out there, Dustin?
There's probably right now about probably 250, 300 range.
Really? I didn't even know there was that many out there. What kind of is this the highest? I mean, obviously we're on slicks, but is this the highest one so far?
Yeah,
with the 3.8.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one other one that's in the ballpark, but they haven't re-dynoed it yet. So.
Okay, we're gonna watch another video here, and then we're gonna bring him in live too. This is Cody's car, who is also on the Mustang Lifestyle channel.
Cody helps me with a lot of stuff with the car. He is super smart. And his car has a 3.8 on it too, with built motor.
It's a 5.4, right?
5.4, yeah.
Yep. All right, let's watch this video real quick that he posted on Facebook. All right. Cody's going to come in here and join us in just a minute. That car looks a little bit more business than yours there, Andrews. I mean,
that's race car. Mine's like street car with AC and, radio, subwoofer, all that stuff.
All right. Here I am looking like her. I'm not going to say that word. Hold on. I don't think he's in here. Oh, I think I can look at
it. Should be.
Not yet.
Coming in.
Yep. I'll leave that open. If you see him pop up, let me know. But yeah, I mean, obviously, the car's pretty light. You have any idea of how light he is?
He hasn't weighed it, but I believe it's, carbon fiber doors.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
Yeah, he ripped out pretty much.
That makes me happier.
Sorry, not pretty much. He ripped out every piece of factory wiring in the car. So full Holley EFI standalone with leash electronics, to power everything else. But his car, he's going after the BPS, the BPS stick shift record, which is what 8.5 with a, probably not as much horsepower as the 3.8's going to make on his car.
I know that car was fairly light though. Okay, here he is. Let me.
Cody will be able to tell you a little bit better than me, but I'm excited to see what it does on his car.
There we go. What's up, Cody? Can you hear us?
Yo, subwoofer, all that stuff.
What happened when you first came on? It was the same kind of thing. We didn't have you for a minute, and then all of a sudden you.
Yeah, I had to swap over and make sure it grabbed my my microphone for sound.
Oh yeah, it is a little bit.
Can you hear me?
There we go. What's up, Cody?
What's up?
Not too much. You saw we just watched the video. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about your car? Is this a new car for you, or have you run it before? Like I know it's new with this setup, but how long have you had the car?
Yeah, it's essentially it's a brand new combo. Front to back, there's nothing on. It's not really. Everything's brand new. Literally from paint job, cage, ECU, motor, trans, fresh rear end. So essentially, we earlier this year, out January is the last outing on the old combo. It was a stock motor, stock trans car with a TVS, and we pushed it pretty far. We had a good time with that, and but at that point in time, it was, I was really wanting to push the stick shift stuff pretty deep. So that's at that point in time, I decided, hey, it's time to put a motor in this car and really go from there. And then once I decided to put the motor in the car, everything just kind of escalated from there.
It looks like from the car that one of my typical projects, like I'm not going to do much.
Yeah.
Then it's like,
yeah. And you know how things go. Things just escalate one thing to the next. Like I said, I was just going to put a motor in it, keep the stock ECU and do a cage because the car needed one at that point in time. So I was like, let's do it. And then got into it, ripped the ECU out of it, decided it was time for a Holley standalone, just where I was headed with it. I wanted to really simplify some things. Then the car got a fuel cell. Then the car got a T56 Magnum. So just one thing after another. And then I was just like, at this point, I want to make sure the car looks as good as it's going to run. So I just want to make sure everything's dialed and get it to where it needs to be. So everything just escalated, and now it's very, very close.
So obviously it looks light.
Yeah.
Andrew said it has carbon doors on it. Is that a number you want to put out on the internet, or you plan on telling anybody
Yeah,
what
I mean,
it weighs?
I'm not too. I mean, I'll usually post most of my data, but I'm pretty confident at this point with even steel doors on it, because I have a set of carbon as well. But it's going to weigh somewhere around 3,200 with me in it in peak.
Wow,
and
awesome.
I have full confidence it should be no heavier than that. I'm going to scale it here soon with some water in it, some extra fuel in it. But I like to get it in the 2000s, dry, I should say, without me in it, and then we can go from there. But
that's exciting. Okay, now my next question, and then this goes to Dustin. What kind of engine? What kind of engine's in that thing? Can it handle that 3.8?
Me and Jordan, I actually spec'd the motor for the blower, actually.
Jordan, you're talking modular.
Jordan,
modular
head shop.
Yep.
So I reached out to Whipple back when earlier summer, when the 3.8 started popping up, and I was like, just kind of want to make a change. And I love the Whipple guys. I mean, like, you got Brian Crane, Alan Garrett, you got all these stick shift guys, Dan Watts. I mean, I can go on and on and on. The Whipple crowd is different. You know what I mean? It's different. There's no doubt about it. So, and I enjoy that. So, just seeing those guys push that stuff, really gave me the itch for it too. So I reached out to the Whipple earlier on, Dustin and Nick, and I told him, the vision for the car and whatnot. And Justin's like, yeah, it's got a Whipple in this bitch for sure. And Nick, so if at that point in time, the motor plans changed. And at that point in time, I was going to do like a Rowdy 11-1 compression and try to utilize more power, because at that point I was going to still use a TBS. And then I was like, no, fuck that. Let's go 3.8. And when I did that, me and Jordan lowered the compression down a little bit, just because we want to use a little more blower RPM, and we spec'd the cams for a little bit more RPM, so we can utilize a little bit more RPM. So it's a relatively basic combo, but I'm comfortable to make 1250, 1300 with it. It's a 5.4 iron block, 9.5 to 1 compression, decently ported heads, ported lower intake manifold, race ported 3.8, L&M NSR cams. So it's aggressive, but nothing too crazy from the average Joe. So it's a motor that most people would build. But
let's bring Dustin back in on the conversation. What kind of I know it's really hard to put a number on it, and we're always talking in real horsepower numbers, so we'll have to kind of do that, even though there's so much that goes into getting it to the wheels, like as we've experienced on Andrew's car with slicks. But let's say the 3.0 is a 1200 to 1350 blower. Would you call it that? Maybe, maxed out. I mean, what do you think? Let's put the number on the 3.0 first, right? So Carlos's car, we haven't had it on the dyno, but with the 3.5 pulley, you put down 1100. We have a 3.0 pulley on it now, which is roughly another 5 pounds of boost. So we're well over 1200, and we're not at max pulley. So like, what do you like? I know there's Cobra Jets and they spin 14,000 RPM, whatever it is, but on a serious motor like we do in our world, not race world that lasts 10 passes, 1300, I mean, is like a realistic.
Yeah, I think
for the 3.0,
1300,
max.
maybe 1400 with the latest findings that we found on the blower. So I would say that's pretty doable, with a reasonably normal motor,
And then now what does the 3.8 add to that? Like in out? It's
got about roughly 350 to 400 more horsepower capacity.
Okay. Wow. So even if you go with the low number on 1300 and the low number on the capacity, you're at 1600, or 1800 or whatever. I mean, I would assume, that's a 3.0, isn't it? What's Brian running?
Brian Crane.
No, Brian Wolf.
Brian Wolf. Oh, that's a 3.0.
Yeah, that's 3.0. So
I
forgot. Yeah. Is there any plans to try to put a 3.8 on that car? Is it a weight difference for the class?
There's a little weight difference, but I don't think I'm not sure he'll be able to get to the weight anyway. So I think the 3.8 would be, according to the rules, it looks like the 3.8 will probably be the best combo, unless you can get really light.
Is he just starting with this one to get it all worked out and is planning to go to the 3.8?
That one did. we didn't make the generic housing for the front feed style. We only did the integrated versions. And so that was what we had at the time. So we're working on the newer version so that we can go either way.
Okay. Well, that'll be a really good, top level. Well, nowadays with the hub dynos, you might see a car like that on the dyno. You normally wouldn't see a car like that on a dyno very often.
Right.
But with the hub dyno, well, he's doing engine dyno stuff. So that's actually, I trust his data. So, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that. It's not going to translate to what we're used to in numbers, but we're most likely going to see a 3-liter maxed out on that engine and a 3.8, right? At some point.
Yeah.
So
exactly. Yep. Yeah. There's some other, race applications that we got going that's, showing higher horsepower.
Well, these guys got me all excited now about stick shift blower cars. I'm doing a 7.3 swap in my 2005 Mustang that I still have. And it was going to be a stick car.
That'd be cool.
It's definitely going to be a stick car. I was thinking about keeping it NA for a while, but man, I love NA. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, just like when I said, I'm not sure if I'm going to put a whip on my 2020 GT. Yeah, right, whatever. So maybe I'll start NA and then I'll join you guys with the Whipple stick shift deal. I'm planning on that car's not in the best shape. So, give me a saw and I'm going to cut it up, and it may not have windows in it. Who knows? Maybe
I need to point out that Cody's car was a really nice low mileage 07 GT500, had really nice paint, the nice blue stripes. And he was just like, oh, screw all that stuff. He wrapped it. And then he was like, nah, let's not do that. And then he was like, let's just sand this thing down and go satin black, tear it all apart, which I think is awesome.
Did you paint it yourself?
Yeah, I do collision.
Oh, that's right. You do the aluminum repair and all that.
Yeah. So I have availability to get into it, and it just kind of escalated.
I'm picturing you sanding it in your backyard or something. Nah, it looks good. It looks real good. All right, let's go over some questions here. Obviously, if anybody has questions for Dustin, you can ask that, or Andrew on the car. Oh, actually, I saw this question earlier. I don't know if you can comment on this, Dustin, but obviously you have some you talk to a lot of people, more than me. What's the deal on this new 6.8 liter? Can't say anything. Do you know? Do you know what's going on? Because everybody I talk to seems a little confused. But I don't. I have some theories that are totally made up in my head. But I'm gonna.
I wouldn't put much value in some of the internet reports that are out there.
Yeah, you don't have to confirm or deny this, but I was going to make a video on it. I don't have time for this, so I'll do it right here. Here's my call. Here's where the confusion is, and this is the only way I can make sense of all the rumors, because all the rumors combine into this theory, right? It's the ultimate conspiracy theory. So, when Ford said they were getting rid of most of the cars and they were going to make Mustang more of a brand and the Bronco a brand, and now we have the Mustang Mach-E, and they're saying it's going in a Mustang, but they're saying it's a truck engine. Are we going to see some sort of weird Mustang SUV truck weird vehicle that's called a Mustang that's going to have a 6.8 in it? I think that's retarded. Excuse me, I shouldn't use that word. My wife gets mad at me. But I don't mean any disrespect to anybody with that word. But anyway. So, I mean, that sounds crazy, but that's the only way that I can make everything make sense, because I can't imagine them I know Kelly is every day. He's like, man, keep dreaming of a 6.8 overhead cam engine. I go, man, keep dreaming. I don't really see it happening. The only way I see that happening is if we all become millionaires and chip in on a billet one, because it's not going to, that's just not going to happen. And to me, it makes sense if there is a 6.8 coming, regardless of where it's going to be push rod, because it's going to be a descendant of the 7.3 architecture. I mean, that just makes sense to me. So it sounds like to me it's going to be some sort of 7.3 variant that I don't know why the Mustang is getting mentioned, but that's what I came up with, that it's some sort of Mustang variant. But
I think they're just some communication, issues there. But I don't.
I think the problem was it came from so many angles too, and the one that actually made me go was when the union guy was talking about it. I'm like, well, crap, he would know, right?
He's just, he's just an elected official, though. He doesn't,
he's not actually in there.
Yeah.
This guy's asking if it's a confirmed push rod. No, nothing's confirmed about it, but I mean, in my head, it's confirmed. This guy is asking about purchasing the Whipple intercooler for his stock 2020 GT500 blower. If I do, will it work with the new blower you're coming out with? I'll let Dustin answer that. I know the answer, but go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, no, that one is just a direct replacement. The new one is the dual core, dual pass, so it's a very unique shape.
Right. So like when you're talking about like a 2014 GT500, that would be that would actually be the case, which is like in Andrew's case, if they had an aftermarket intercooler, that's separate from the blower. Whereas these upside down styles, it's kind of a package deal. You're not really it's not a mix and match thing. You don't change the compressor and keep an intercooler.
The stock core between the lid top and the hood, you'd be crazy to make an system with that intercooler. It's very limited in size.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're running your intercooler. We sold quite a few of those. I think a couple of the highest trapping GT500 so far are running that intercooler. But it's still limited, because things like
make it so good.
Things that you did that they didn't do, like the double pass deal. I mean, again, they're designing things.
Yeah,
they're not really.
They need line of sight when they do their assembly line, so they got to be able to drill straight down. So then they taper the kit, like this. But we don't, we're not worried about it.
Wait, what's that? What?
They when they go down the assembly line and assemble the motor, they need to have line of sight straight down.
Oh, really?
Bolts. So that's why the blower is, usually tapered like this in all the applications.
That I had no idea that's why they would do that. That sounds ridiculous.
Yeah. So we go the other way, right?
Right.
And we let the customers, complain how hard it is to bolt together. But hey, that's what makes power. So.
Yeah, I mean, when we were designing our billet lid, and I was looking at all that, and I saw the shape of the blower like that, and I said to myself, I wonder why it's skinnier at the top like that.
Yeah, that's definitely because it's just a manufacturing thing, because it's not necessarily a robot, but it's a mechanism that has 8 or 12 sockets all at one time. It goes on there and tightens it all. So GM, everybody's kind of in the same design phase or design system.
That's crazy. Yeah, it's crazy that. Well, I guess it is kind of obvious because that they do design the cars that way, because a lot of the times they seemingly are easier to take apart than they used to be.
Exactly.
So I guess there is a nice benefit to that. Let's see who else we got here. Warren Bartlett says, "What's up? I'm from Fresno. Just had my 19 Mustang fitted with the Gen 5 Stage 2 at your facility, and I'm loving it. Mike was great and very helpful and knowledgeable." Oh,
great. Yeah. They had a nice red car. Yeah.
I didn't know. So do you guys do that on a regular basis, or was this a special case?
Yeah, we don't. We've been trying not to lately, just because it's somehow I get sucked into them always, and I don't have a lot of time.
The fact that you guys do that at all is pretty cool to me. Most manufacturers wouldn't do that.
We were averaging one a week for a while there, so we're down to trying to only do 1 or 2 a month. But we learn every time we find that we somehow the hoses changed, or something that we did differently in our kit.
That's a great point, actually, because I just was like, well, most manufacturers don't get into that, but it's actually benefiting you for that reason. I didn't even consider that. You could design a kit on the new car comes out, but I'm sure from people not me, but Rare Fab that works with us, they're putting them on all the time. You hear feedback from them. That way you can get your own feedback. So
yeah, we'll find out the brackets. There's certain parts that we outsource, and the bracket, the hole will be slotted, the angle will be bent just a little bit differently, and then those are little issues that we run about. And then the hoses are always just a thing, because the routing, you can route it 50 different ways, and so that changes the length. So we try to give everybody pre-formed, pre-cut, pre-sheaved hoses, and that's it's really hard to tell someone to go under the harness, through the through here and up there. So
that's one thing I've always liked about your kits is everything's well made, and it feels like it's an OEM conversion and not just hey, I went to Home Depot and got some brass fittings and this works out.
Exactly.
Cody, let's talk about your car a little bit more. What's the time frame on that thing? Obviously we saw the idle video. Where we at on that deal?
I'm shooting for hopefully get it down to you, get it on the dyno work some things out probably next week or the week after, hopefully.
Yeah, just whenever you're ready, we can do that.
Yeah, I just want to make sure. I'm big into making sure everything's dialed in and not trying to rush anything. Like, bring out, address a problem child or anything like that. Rush things, but I want to make sure everything's ready. So when we hit the ground running. Make sure things are dialed in, and then pretty much go straight to the track after that. I mean, power has never been a really too concern on that car. More of the goals are more focused for an ET and a mile an hour.
Yeah, I mean, with the weight you're getting at, you're going to have a lot more time involved in the suspension and clutch and all that than you are trying to make horsepower.
Yeah. There's just so many little things that needs to be dialed in front to back. That's my favorite part of just any build, just collecting data, just really dialing it in the combo, just perfecting it from every point and every aspect, Yeah,
it's all kind of culminating perfectly, honestly. We've got your car getting ready. Andrew's is ready and just needs a little bit of TLC. And then Dustin's going to ship me my 3.8 for my GT500 Friday. And
Whipple party.
Maybe not Friday, but hopefully soon. For those of you guys that are Palm Beach Dyno tuned, we're going to be doing I want to hear from you guys on this. The more interest we get, the better motivation I have to actually do it. But our plan is, and maybe you guys could be involved in this, Andrew. I didn't really think about Orlando, but maybe we could do a little triangle kind of deal where we're going to have at least once a month over the winter, maybe twice a month. We're going to try and do a track rental and move it around. So, we'll do PBIR first because that's close to us. And then Kelly Aiken from Keltrack and formerly BMR will come over, and we'll have a limited number of customers to dial in the cars. And then we'll do one over at Bradenton the next time. And then maybe we can do one up by you guys in Orlando, kind of like a little bit of a traveling little dial-in type kind of deal, track rental deal where we have everybody there together. So I don't know what kind of suspension you're running or if Kelly helps you guys, but he helps us on all our stuff.
Kelly actually, we pretty much made a plan when I first got my GT500. We kind of made a plan of we didn't want to go crazy, K-member and everything thrown at my car at first. We kind of wanted to do things step by step. So we made a pretty much plan of 4 steps to do on the car. And we've pretty much done them all now besides, some front Vikings. But yeah, Kelly pretty much picked every piece, that went on the car to make sure it works. And now we just have some dialing in to do because we just keep adding power to the car.
Well,
and
you ever, you guys planning on taking your cars to any kind of races ever?
I know Cody wants to do some various different stick shift races.
Because what's in January?
What's that?
SCT Bradenton.
Yeah, that was the last event that I was actually at.
Yeah,
this year.
We're going to that. So,
yep. I love SCT stuff. The SCT streetcar takeover stuff's always been a blast.
We're gonna get more involved with them this year.
For me, I mean, figuring out. I mean, really, it's just figuring out the car and figuring out where you're comfortable, with the setup and knowing where it's going to be consistent, and then work on the tree. That's the most important thing. Is figure out the car, figure out the suspension, make sure it works and it's consistent, and then make sure you're fast on the tree. Because if you do all that, but you're slow on the tree, in some sort of, stick shift racing, heads up, it's going to be pointless.
Yeah, but if you get the car running, maybe you're in Florida anyway, come for fun. Get the car out there. Even if you get beat on the tree first round, it goes 890 at 160, you're still going to have a smile on your face. Guarantee it.
Yeah. So I think we'll be getting some sort of 8-second pass out of mine. We really don't know. I mean, what the thing's going to trap, and we kind of have an idea of how much power it made, but with those bias fly tires, we were still kind of is this 1300? Is this 1250? It's
there's no doubt in my mind at all that it has 8-second power at its weight and trap speed. But
I mean,
anybody knows it's driven a stick shift car that's much over 800 or 900 horsepower. They get extremely difficult to launch at the track. And you could do it. I mean, it just depends on how many times you're going to break it before you figure out every little detail. I mean, I went through that when I raced NA stick shift racing. We were battling more RPM issues than we were battling power problems. But you're always battling something, when you're trying to push a stick car.
I'm interested to see more on Andrew's car too. I mean, I feel there's still. I mean, you might be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel there's still a decent amount on the table for Andrew's car too. Once we get everything sourced out, and then get a regular tire back on that car. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah,
actual
absolutely.
street tire. So once we figure out some of the issues that we're sourced through Andrew's here in a couple of weeks as well. So the next couple of weeks, and then get that thing dialed in.
Yeah, I mean, I got a hood that I'm gonna go pick up, so we can get a hood on it. Obviously we still got some tweaking to do. That intake is just massive, so we kind of just tuned it for full throttle. So we're gonna, dial it back in, and then I think I'm just gonna go ahead and pick up some ID 1700s to make sure we have plenty of injector and try to just really go through the car and make sure it's ready to get down the track. And I mean, really my goal is 8.9, 8.8, something like that. If it goes faster, then even better. It'd be cool if Cody's number one, stick shift GT500, and somehow I get somewhere in there number 2 or number 3, with a semi full weight, street car. And then we also have to figure out how to get this thing to work on the street, because I really want to be able to have the car, a consistent mid, 4 seconds, 60 to 130, to really, mess with some GTRs and some high horsepower roll racing.
Yeah, I'd like you to join us for Texas. We're planning on making a big showing in Texas. I signed up to be a sponsor this week for TX2K, so I'm real excited about that. I'll be bringing that's one of the big reasons I want to get the new 3.8 Whipple on there, but I'll also be bringing my 2011 too for roll racing.
Yeah, I mean, Cody and I were talking about it. I mean, it'd be cool to, have like a 2-car, gooseneck trailer towing out to Texas, my car and his car, rolling out there. If anyone in Florida has a 2-car trailer they want to let us borrow, let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bringing both my cars, and, I'm going to drive my RV with one trailer. I have 2 trailers, and then the guys will drive my pickup truck with my open trailer. But that'll be actually useful, because that way if I want to go out at night, if I need to go get some milk or anything, I can take my trailer and my car and go out till 5 o'clock in the morning looking for milk or Mexico or whatever. Anyway, let's see. You guys got any questions? Nick says, bring your traveling roadshow to Texas. Actually, I do plan on doing that. I don't think it's going to happen next year, but I'm going to wait till I buy a new RV. But Brandy's already agreed to doing like a majorly long road trip, like 4 or 5 months.
No more hitting turkeys.
And we're just going to travel around the whole country. I'll come visit Dustin. Maybe we could do like I'm going to start doing, this is great, live feed, and questions, but I'm going to start doing like a more produced podcast sometime next year. So I can come out there, do that with you, and pick up all the California guys and just do my whole big deal. But I'll have my nice RV and trailer and car with me, so I can hang out wherever I want. There's not going to be any kind of plan. I'll just go to a city, stay there till I get tired of it.
That's awesome.
Leave. Yeah, I can't believe I talked to my wife into that, but it comes with buying a nice RV, which is something I want. So I don't know. She's just on my team right now. Kyle Quigley says, shout out, what's up? He's over out of with Colin over there at Racing Integration. He used to have a Whipple on his car at one point, I believe. Let's see. Pablo says he needs a fire Whipple build. You're in California. You're going to have to ship your car pretty far, but we do it. We get cars shipped here all the time. Here's a question for Dustin. 3.8 on the 0304 Cobra.
Yeah, it's still planned, but we have some new other blowers coming that will probably be a little more beneficial. The problem with the Cobra is that the motor and the manifold just doesn't flow enough air for a really big blower. That's so, if you want 40 pounds of boost, that would be great, but you're getting into turbo territory at that point. So a little smaller blower stay in the efficiency. A little smaller blower than a 3.8, stay in the efficiency range will probably be the best application for that.
Yeah, I still tune a lot of 0304 Cobras. I don't post about them very much, to be honest with you, because they're just all over the place, and I don't want to get too many requests or any real requests for remote Cobras, because it gets really kind of complicated, because you don't know what the car is. I mean, even if the car is 100%, when I'm in person, those tune a little bit more like voodoo than they do real tuning. It's a limitation. So I kind of have to feel it out. And if you're feeling it out remotely, it gets really tough. But we have a lot of really bad S1s in town that make some serious power. So whatever you have coming, let me know. We may have some good cars to put those on. One of my guys, he might be in here, Joel. He's got a 2.9 on it, I guess, right now. Probably. Yeah, it just made some really killer power.
Good.
Let's see. Quarter Mile says had his first Whipple car in 2000. It was a 99 S10 with a 4.3 liter. Oh, what the hell was the blower back then? It must have been pretty small.
That was a 1.3 liter blower back then.
That's awesome.
Boy.
I had no idea.
We had that was a car I drove for a while. We had an old Rex,
he says it was a 2.1.
S10.
Was there a 2.1 too?
No.
Yeah.
There was a 2.1, but it was never on the.
It was a top feed for a carburetor with a carburetor on it. Does that sound right?
No, they had the throttle body on the back.
Oh, okay.
It was the old it was like a 2-barrel car or throttle body.
Oh, but it looked like a carburetor kind of.
Yeah. So it was mounted like on the back at an angle and just a little wraparound part. But yeah, I drove one that had like 300,000 miles that, we put like $30 tires on every, time. And every time there's a little hill to go overpass here. And every time I'd go up it, just, do a burnout all the way up it.
Let's talk about blower speed a little bit. On Andrew's car, we have 10% lower. And right now, what did we end up at 3.0? Andrew, I think.
Yeah. So we ended up with a 3.0, 10% lower. And I mean, we probably should have. Well, the reason why we didn't test is because we were having so much tensioner issues, because we kind of wanted to go back and figure out what was going on. But it did really well with the 3.0.
What kind of RPM is that, Dustin? Or do you know off the top of your head?
Let's see here. It's the 7.95, right, lower.
I believe that's right for the 10%.
Yeah. Yeah, you're around 19,000 blower speed input.
Is there like a sweet spot? I mean, I know it works through a wide range, but is there like somewhere where it's really singing perfectly?
It'll keep pumping all the way up to about 28,000. We like to keep it around 24 to 26.
And we're at what?
Yeah, 19.
Oh wow, so we got quite a bit to go then.
Yeah, quite a bit of room. That's why in the Coyote there's such an advantage, because the motors can rev so much easier than the than the 5.4 and 5.8s. But there's plenty to go on that thing.
Yeah,
I think we that first dyno pull we made. I don't even know what we have for footage. I don't know if you want to tell what we made with the 375 pulley, but Ken and I looked at each other and we're like, what the heck? So
yeah, with the slicks on it and everything, I didn't even honestly know what pulley was on it when you made the pull. I just assumed we were starting a little higher than that boost wise. But yeah, when it came up, it didn't even break 1,000. So we were like, whoa. But between what we had
two
spoke
pulley
about earlier,
sizes, lower, and we picked up 200 wheel horsepower.
Yeah, it just started.
Blower really. That's what these modified motors. The 3.8 is really, really good. That's where it's going to really shine. Is like Cody's the lower compression. He's going to be able to spin that blower, get it up and a little higher on the boost side, and it's going to make a tremendous amount of power, and it's just going to keep climbing until the cams can fall off. So that's so it's going to be a good application.
AC asks, what tensioner you're running, Cody? What's on your car?
It's essentially it's an ARS, American Racing Solutions. It's a VMP's copycat of it.
Zing! Wait, hold on.
He's never copied anything.
I just want to be real with you.
I have like sound
just want
effects.
to be real.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean when Cody's car, when we get his car on the dyno, it's going to be interesting to see what that does with boost, because we're still a little unsure whether we have some belt slip, which I think we did on the final pull. We still had a little bit of belt slip because we were a little inconsistent with boost. And then the other thing is, like, obviously, my car has some pretty good ported heads, some cams. We got a ported lower. Everything post blower going down lowers your boost. I got inch and 7/8 headers. All that stuff lowers boost. But going into, obviously intake and throttle body, that's, we have stuff good flowing there. You increase boost, which we did see when we switched from the JLT to the 1320. We saw boost pick up, I think, 1.5 pounds, maybe 2 pounds of boost. So it'd be interesting to compare, my boost numbers with Cody's, being that he does have similar heads, a little bit different cams, but we can kind of get an idea, was my car belt slipping or not? And, when we get my car finally dialed in, and we can bring it back down and try to, get it to be really consistent, figure out what boost setup, I really want to run with my car.
Yeah, and then the way, Andrew's cams were agreed to. Andrew's cams were agreed to utilize a little bit less RPM. It looks like essentially falling off around 7,300-ish or so.
Yeah,
7,200-ish. So, if we try to read cams a little bit and change a few things there, we could use a little bit more RPM, and that might help a little bit. But it's just like stuff like
what
that.
Do you mean?
Down in the combo.
We want all the torque. I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Everybody's like, what's a dyno graph?
Just under 1,000 pounds of torque.
That's why it blows tires off.
Yeah,
that feels cool. That makes a ripper of a
I
street
get
car.
I get YouTube comments every day on we have a GT350R with a Whipple 2.9 and a S550 with a Whipple 2.9, and those don't make really good torque numbers. But guess what? You can actually get those cars to hook. Our GT350R is pretty fun car because you can actually get on a street tire, and it doesn't make torque down low. It makes some horsepower up top. So the 990 something foot-pounds of torque is not very usable on the street.
Here's a good question, Dustin. We're talking about upgrading blowers. What about going from a 4-liter on a GT500? I don't know if it's a 5.8 or 5.4, but just in general, this guy Ford GT CS07. Oh, well, it's 07, I would assume. If it's built, what would be the advantage going to the newer design, even though it's slightly smaller?
That's definitely, it'll drop the IAT2s, depending on how you test it, but it'll drop it at, if you're at 25 PSI, it'll drop it about 125 to 150 degrees, which is, significant.
Before the intercooler. Pre-intercooler temps.
Yeah. No. Well, yes, but unless you did steady state, but yeah.
Okay.
So it's a big drop in temperature. Dyno Pole, you don't see the full temperature range that you're going to see in the street and stuff, but you'll see about 100 to 150 horsepower gain at the same boost on that. So it's really worthwhile. We've obviously found that you need to have the DD 149 inlet in there, and anything, trying to make some power. So, between that and the blower, it's definitely 100 plus horsepower gain at the same boost. So it's
that's awesome.
Definitely worthwhile. Yeah.
We got a pretty badass 4.5 GT500 with a 680 in town, and that thing on like 22 pounds, it's making pretty good power, like 1140, 1150 through a 680. So
yeah,
maybe I need to talk him into a 3.8.
We did one test on another motor. It was between the 4.5 and the 3-liter. It was 100 and, well, if you did the boost, it made 120 more horsepower at 7 PSI less boost.
That's insane.
So, and the 3.8 is even better than that. So
somebody else has dogs.
Dogs be barking.
Nick down in Texas wants to know on his 3-liter, how small of a how small of a pulley can he go on his 18 Whipple car with a 20% lower? That's Nick. That's been
you can run a 2.5. We technically have pulleys all the way down to a 2-inch. They slip like crazy. So, generally we don't go past 2.5. Usually, if you want to get anywhere near like 3-inch and lower, you should grip tech or coat the pulleys, because you start really getting the smaller contact surface.
I want to go back here. I think I missed quite a few. If anybody has any questions that I missed, let me know. It was a little hard to keep up when people were talking. I remember seeing anyway. Oh, thanks, Mike, for the $10. I appreciate that. I didn't even see that come through.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Dustin this when So, with all the blower technology coming out lately with, the 3.8, the 3.0, the 2.9, looking back, I was looking back at like 2014, 2015, looking at built motor GT500s, and there was like, some 3.4, 4.0 Whipple GT500s making like 900 horsepower. And that was considered, big power back then. Now we're talking, 1,000, 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 wheel horsepower with blower cars, so kind of have the question of what has changed really, is it built motors getting better, or is it blower technology just worlds better than it was before?
Yeah, definitely. The motors have gotten better with better cams, and people are getting better on the heads. But no matter what, the biggest gains have been the Supercharger. We've learned such different directions than what we had prior. Years when the TVS came out, we had to kind of group and understand, because before, the older Roots blowers were just horrible, so that we could make any blower and it was better than that at the point. But when they made the TBS, we then had to figure out how to keep pushing the level. So we really invested heavily in CFD software and other software, and brought in some other engineers and some other partners so that we could really just try to see how much we can actually make it. And we continue to find massive gains. I mean, I would say that we're 500 horsepower better on a 3-liter versus a 2.9 in a all out application. That was you told me that 3 years ago, I would have said no way. We were thinking 200, 300, but we're at 500 and we still got more to go.
Let's talk about blower design a little bit when it comes to blower whine, right? Everybody always wants the whine.
Yeah.
Is that somewhat a side effect of inefficiency? I mean, it seems like, the older ones whine because they're probably like crying for air,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's the amount of pulsation. So the more rotor lobes you have, the more pulsations you're going to have. You're also going to have, a lot more turbulence and problems. So generally speaking, noise is actually a disadvantage.
All right.
So 3 liters and 3/8 are quieter.
I got a great idea. It doesn't matter how much horsepower you can make. You just have to add this to your blower. You're going to sell 20% more blowers. On the inside, just machine a little whistle, and you could tune it, right? You could sell little inserts, and you could change your whine and all that crap. And that's what anybody cares about, it seems like, when they talk about blowers.
Make it like a little titanium insert, in there to,
Put it in. You got active whine. It's got a solenoid. You can change it, change the volume, make it sound.
Make an amp for
it. I think it's $1 million idea. It's free.
I like
right
it.
There.
I like it.
Please don't do that to mine. All right. Anyway, Car Lifestyle Media says he needs the new Shoemaker hat. Actually, if you look in the description, I think I left the link to that hat from last week. Eric wants to know from Cody, what's your long-term goal with the car? Well, I know he's going after the blower record for the GT500, but do you have any like specific number in mind that you're shooting for?
Yeah, I mean, I really hate like announcing, like trying to claim, I'd rather just let the car do it. But as far as a goal in mind, I mean, I'm good. I'm close with Matt Burnett. He's a good friend. I look up to that car. The Billet Pro Shop car from, it set the record, still has a record to this day for the 6-shift GT500 record. And nobody's really tried to push that. That record's set at 853 at 166. That would be essentially the long-term goal here, to push into. We start going into 2021 to really try to start diving towards that. And
did you say 156?
Or 166.
Oh, 66. Okay.
Yeah, 853 at 166. Car got like a 127 60-foot with a regular RXT diaphragm clutch. So that car was
that's a good question.
Very, very, very dialed in. That car left very good.
Let's talk about clutches for a minute. What are you running in yours compared to Andrew?
So my car right now currently has a RXT 1200 in it for break-in. I kept that in it just to get the car A to B, so we don't have to deal with a slipper. But the car is going to get a Black Magic slipper clutch. So I just want to be able. So there's so much going into the car right now, and just trying to get the car to work, especially dyno time, and get everything dialed in with a new ECU, and figure out what the car does like for the blower and everything like that. So just to essentially get the car A to B first, we're gonna use a regular RXT 1200, and then once I feel comfortable with everything, we'll swap over to a slipper and start working on dialing that in.
Are you running an RXT in yours, Andrew?
Mine's actually a Mantic triple disc.
Oh, okay.
And it's been good so far. I think it has a little bit more slip than an RXT, which kind of helps when we're trying to move it around the corners with the spool and everything, and the cams going. But other than that, I mean, it seems to work good so far. We haven't broken it. We haven't had any slip issues. So
For those that are wondering here that are interested in stick shift racing but don't know what a slipper clutch is, that's the equivalent of like, you know, what made all these cars make all this power is the Whipple, you know, making the blowers better. Well, a slipper clutch, it's not a new thing, but it's newer to these street cars, and that's why all these cars that were going mid to low eights are now going mid sevens now. People like Yandro and Cletus. Cletus was pretty late getting to the slipper clutch, but he runs one now. And all those guys. Yandro's the Ford guy, but Tick does the Camaro, whatever that is. You know, and basically what happens is it's called a slipper clutch because it's designed to slip, but you're not doing it manually with your foot like you try to do a clutch. And like something like that Mantic probably isn't very easy to modulate on your own. It may couple kind of softly, but you can't really, I'm guessing, like control it yourself. So what a slipper clutch does is the pressure plate determines how much pressure is clamping your disc, and that's going to change with the RPM of the engine. So you kind of dial that in with counterweights, and there's all kinds of different ways to go about it. Cody mentioned Black Magic clutches. That's run or owned by, you know, a former racer that I know somewhat through the sportsman racing. He's done. Do you know what he's run, Dustin? Do you know Cale Arnson? He ran Pro Stock for a while. He ran NMRA for a while, and him and his wife run that company themselves. She does a lot of the clutch stuff, so a lot of guys are using him, and he's a real big resource for, I think, probably like 75% of the faster, really fast stick shift street cars are running his stuff. So anyway, clutch is a really important part when we're talking about these stick shift cars going really fast. To go, I mean, Andrew's goal of going 890s, even with that clutch, is certainly possible, but it's way easier. There's some disadvantages trying to run a slipper clutch in the way he runs his car because he drives it all the time and he does all kinds of things with it. But if you're building a drag car that, you know, you're going to drive on the street and you're going to play with it, but you're willing to make some compromises, you definitely want to look into a fancier clutch. They're not cheap though.
yeah, I think we're gonna have to. We're probably gonna have to do some tuning side of things to be able to make the car launch. Because the other day I was trying 3,000, 2,500 RPM, and with all that torque and power that we're making, it was just instantly lighting up the tires.
Well, here's a good example on something we can do for you, maybe in the tune, or I know we can do it in the tune, but we have to play with it. So Cody's talking about using a slipper clutch, which, you know, on all-out race setups, that's probably the best way to go because you can tune that very easily at the track over multiple passes. But in a case where you don't have a slipper clutch, what are you basically doing with the slipper clutch? Well, you're kind of limiting the power being applied, plus you're also keeping the RPM up and then just coupling the clutch as, you know, over a certain amount of time. We can do the same somewhat with power management with throttle body. So that's the nice thing about a twin screw car is, or any positive displacement blower, is the throttle body basically can act as a boost controller. Having finite control over it can be a little tricky in the stock tune, but we have done that quite a bit. I haven't done it honestly that much on a stick shift car. We could probably maybe do it by gear. I've done it on an automatic car. I don't, there's not a whole lot of stick shift cars that make 1,200 horsepower with a twin screw that I've had to tune so far. So that's probably why I haven't done it. Look, we already got a guy. He's trying to order the wine whistle. He wants to know what the part number is. Let's see. This guy's got a 99 Cobra with a 2.2 Kenny Bell. That's nostalgic. When I first got into this, it was the 03 Cobra days, and it was the 2.3 Kenny Bell versus the 2.3 Whipple.
Yeah, it was good blower wars back then.
Yeah, it was funny because back then, I didn't know you at all back then, and or Jared, and my background in this industry has me connected somewhat to Kenny Bell due to Jerry, who taught me everything I know, and he's tight with Kenny Bell, and I like Kenny Bell, and I still like Kenny Bell. I've been there. I have never even met Dustin in person, but I've met Jim Bell. I need to get out there to see you. But anyway, point being is back then, like me and Jared, we would battle constantly on modular fours, and I'm sure you were there too. We would argue on everything from booster pumps and four and all that stuff. But now we're all buddies.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's see what else we got going on here. If you guys, we're rolling up on 2 hours here. So if you guys have any questions, let us know. PH Garage asks, is PBD tuning Cody's car on the Holly? I'll let Cody speak for himself. I haven't really spoke to him too much about it. I assume we're going to help him tune it in a standalone situation, especially with somebody like Cody, who's pretty smart and sharp. Even if he doesn't know how to do it, I can show him how to tune it himself at the track. When anybody that has a standalone, you really got to learn how to tune it yourself. You can get a guy like me to help you get it started, but that's the whole advantage of the standalone. You don't need anybody.
Yeah. So I'm just pretty young. So like I look up to like people like Ken, people like Dustin, like industry leaders like this that are actually making a name for themselves and just doing really cool stuff. So yes, to answer your question though, Ken's gonna help me. I just want to run through your assurance, so like I'm confident I can get the car to where it needs to be. It's just somebody to back me up and be like, yes, this is the correct move, especially when you're playing with so much money. You know what I mean? So it's good to have.
Yeah, this is a good time to talk about standalone versus stock computer tuning and what makes them so incredibly different. Like if he told me he wanted to tune the car with a stock computer himself and based on the same level of intelligence I think he has, I'd be like, you're crazy. He's smart enough, I could tell just by the way he talks and the way he works on cars, but it just takes a long time to learn stock computer stuff because it's not scientific to a certain extent. Dustin, in his world, works in it in a more scientific way because they do certified calibrations and they're involved with Ford. But when you're talking about somebody like me, feel like I'm very good at it, but that only comes over years and years and years, and it's really like it's like a puzzle, it's like a puzzle book. You learn patterns and how things kind of relate, and you get some information and you kind of see a little bit, but it's voodoo a little bit. Whereas on a standalone, if you're smart and you try, you're going to eventually be good at it or good enough to do it yourself. So in this case, we helped Cody get rolling. And I tune a lot of standalone cars, but not as much as a guy that does only standalone. So, he may see something we're doing and be like, oh, we can do this. Or, there's so many things to tuning a standalone beyond tuning. It's learning how to, the data logging software talks to the tuning software and making things efficient and work well. You could take a Holly and get it down the track and do really well and look at the data log and it could be a mess, so you could do it right, or you can kind of get it down the track. How did you get the car running, Cody?
Essentially I've been chasing an issue all week on, it was a firing. I thought it was a firing order issue just because of the popping and banging when I was cranking the car. And we were just getting a false crank sensor reading on crank. So I do like a crank log and it was just not ideal. So I made sure I had the timing cover powder coated. And that brought the cam sensor and the crank sensor a little bit more away from their proper readings. Mm-hmm. So once I cleaned the powder coat off the timing cover, and set the actual proper tolerance for the distance between the sensors, I got proper cranking signal, and then essentially just built a decent base map because it's all VE based stuff with Holly. So just looked up how to build one, online, and then saw what was working with other people, and essentially just pulled all the fuel out of it because it's a fresh motor, and got the car to idle, and then essentially once I got the car to idle, get a wideband that was warm. And this is all brand new stuff to me. And then so I got the wideband that was warm, and then I had essentially a data log to work off because the Holly essentially tells you what's wrong. You know what I mean? And then you're just work from there.
Right, but there's a perfect example. Okay, without throwing too many stones, you by yourself were able to get your brand new GT500 with 3.8 to idle.
Yeah.
That didn't happen on Andrew's car, right? So we'll just leave it at that. But you know, it's not easy to do. Oh man, I lost my battery. You guys talk for a minute. Sorry.
But yeah, it's just it's way easier. I mean, essentially, when you're dealing with standalone stuff, I mean, essentially, it's there for you. So, it tells you. I mean, it literally tells you to a certain extent. You just have to get the card to monitor data first off, and once you get the card to actually going, it'll tell you what data is wrong. So the hardest part is to get the car going and just make sure every single sensor is picking up the way it needs to be. But Andrew can touch a little bit on that.
Yeah, I mean, a standalone would. I don't want to go standalone in my car because I really want to keep the the factory cluster and the AC, and I really want to keep my car semi stock. But a standalone would be incredibly beneficial for what we're trying to do on track. You can set up lean cut, and if it starts going lean, it'll just cut you off right there, and the Holly will correct for fueling. It'll try to keep up with fueling and automatically correct things. So the standalone has a lot of really great features to keep an engine in a car, and while a stock PCM doesn't do all those things. So it's a standalone could really benefit my car, but I don't want to go quite that route yet. But it does have some really good benefits for some safety for some engine engine management.
Yeah, and that's a good point. There's really good reasons to do stock computer sometimes, and there's really good reason to do the standalone. And looking at Cody's car, it's gotten pretty extreme, and I mean, obviously you can put a Holly dash in it, but the interior is not stock looking. On a car where you want all the gauges to work and all the features to work and all that, a standalone sometimes isn't the best option because it just doesn't, you start breaking things as far as how the car communicates. So that's why in a situation like our 2020 GT500, it would take a lot for me to put a standalone in it, but that may happen someday because, who knows if we're ever going to get TCM support. And that's a major problem for the GT500. So if we don't go there, somebody like me might have to bite the bullet and get a standalone in there. But to do that, you're not going to just totally erase all these features. So now you got to get, all the gauges to work, and who knows if you can get everything happy. So, guys have taken the time to do that in like the GTR world, for instance. But it's a major undertaking. So that's why sticking with the stock computer in a lot of cases is better or less hassle and cheaper. But on a full effort car, I'm definitely not against a standalone at all. All right, so let's see. Got a couple questions here. Jared wants to know what keeps you from using the Holly to run the factory ECU and use the factory ECU to run the dash and everything. Sometimes that'll work. The newer the car, the more complicated it's going to get. There's all kinds of checks in between it.
Modules.
Yeah, so many modules that have to communicate with each other. It starts getting very, very complicated.
Yeah, you could spend days, weeks and weeks and weeks trying to rewire a car like that to utilize everything in a body control, but still just run off a motor because everything corresponds with each other. So when you go through searching through body harnesses and chassis harnesses, there's stuff that all runs in correspondence to each other. So essentially you're just going to, if you want something to work all along its lines, essentially you're going to have to make it all. There's nothing in the car at that point is good. So you're essentially, if you want to add amenities like AC, power steering, all that stuff, it's extremely, takes some time for sure.
Yeah, this kind of plays into, I helped Adam LZ a little bit with his GT350 Barra swap. And, this is kind of a very similar thing. So obviously the standalone to run the Barra, but he wanted to have the factory, keyless entry, push to start to work with a GT350. And luckily, being a Ford Barra engine, he was able to split out the crank signal off the Barra, feed it back into, the factory PCM and the factory wiring that breaks out from there. So we were able to get RPM. Then there also had a coolant temp sensor rolled into there. So you actually got, factory gauges, and the factory, even the fuel pump driver module was communicating with the fuel system. So you could do key on and, keyless entry, locking. In theory, he should be able to get AC, but I mean, it's a lot of work. We were sitting there. I had ForeScan open for hours trying to figure out why, the body control module wasn't working with it, and turned out to be a dash harness issue. So there's a lot of time and stuff that goes into swap, and it really just won't be, perfect like factory. You'll just have to, accept that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very rare that you see a full turnkey standalone package that runs everything. Here's a question for you, Dustin. A lot of people ask this, and I know there's different things that go into it, but what goes into the lead time on a Whipple Supercharger? Like sometimes it's 4 weeks, sometimes it's 7 weeks, sometimes, it just varies. What is it? Demand pretty much?
Yeah, the demand, fluctuates quite a bit, but we keep expanding. We've added on to our buildings and added a lot more employees and more assembly line style features. But every time we increase productivity, then demand increases. So we float anywhere from 400 to 1,000 kits behind, and so we're all working overtime, working extra hours, trying to get as many kits out as possible. So we've been making good hay, but then of course the COVID deal will be fine. We're expecting a lot of parts to come in, and then it gets stuck somewhere, or somebody gets sick and they can't come in, or it's a kind of a constant battle every day. So, but I think right now we're about a 3 to 4 week kit building lead time. But there was times when like during the Christmas sale and then Black Friday and stuff, they'll sell so many that we'll fall behind a little bit. And then of course the holidays also, because a lot of guys are off.
Very cool. So this is a good question. We're talking about 3.8 and it's a bigger version of the 3.0. Is there something after that?
Yeah, there's definitely two sizes, one for all out drag racing, and then there's one for for just whatever reason, because I like to do stupid things sometimes. So I'm building.
Does that have anything to do with the Pro Mod?
That's the big one.
Is that going on that?
Maybe, yeah.
If you need a driver, I'll send in my application. All right, let's see what else we got here. Best auto swap for Gen 2 quarter-mile street use. I mean, we like the 680 for Gen 2 S550, but I mean, most people put a Glide or 400 in there if you don't want to stick with the stock style training. Jess is talking the stick shift game. She's got a fast twin turbo one, so her husband's got the one that we did, the promotional deal with both of them locally. So we're going to be doing some pitting them next against each other in all kinds of videos. So don't worry, Ben will do good. Let's see what else we got here. Question for Dustin. Oh no, that's the same question I just asked you. Built to order. Let's see. All right, guys. Got any more questions for us?
Yeah, I got a question for Dustin.
All right, go ahead.
I know you guys do a lot of boat stuff, and I think you do. What's the boat company in Bristol? Is that Outer Limits?
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that because I'm actually from Rhode Island. But how much boat stuff do you guys do? What's the share, in terms of automotive to boat?
Yeah, it's not very much. There was a good time, in the late 2000s, 2010 range, that we had a really good niche of parts that Mercury didn't offer. So that was a good time where we sold quite a bit. And of course, the automotive was a lot slower back then, and so it was more like a 50-50 split. But nowadays, it's closer to like 10%. The automotive keeps going up, and the marine just holds steady. And then the newer computers have gotten a little bit harder to deal with, and there's not companies like SCT and that kind of stuff that help with the software. So the marine is not anywhere near as good as the automotive.
Dustin, any plans for upgraded intercooler with larger tubes for the 03 Cobra? I know there was some problems in that market.
Yeah, I don't really plan on it. I was offering to maybe help like J2 if needed, because we have a really good core supplier, and but it looks like he got everything worked out, so I think it's good. But I didn't really plan on it. We could, but if J2 is doing that, I wouldn't do it, because as long as he does a really good job. And
in a niche market like that, there's only so many you're going to sell anyway. So, if somebody's doing a good job, if you feel like somebody's doing a bad job, that's a good reason to jump into it. But he does good work.
Exactly.
Let's see. Stock 18 to 20 GT. What have you seen them hold with a Whipple? One of the fastest stock motor ones would be Jared's, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and that was with the prototype blower.
That was still that gold one, right? It looks a little weird on there when I see it.
That's crazy. Yeah. I kept telling them we can upgrade, and then they got rid of the car. So it was.
That had to been making 1,000, right?
No, that's what I'd say, about 1,000, 1,050 range.
That's what we've seen on these 18 pluses, man. We've had some go. We had one go with like 300 miles on it, but not with Whipple. At 1,000, but I think it was a two-step issue, nothing to do with anything else. I've never seen a cylinder so melted and every other cylinder look good. Let's see what else. How long do we expect the trans to last in a Gen 5 Whipple 2020 5-liter F-150 that's driven hard? So we got the 10-speed, which is definitely strong, but the F-150 is a little on the heavier side.
Probably check out Dorian boosted F-150.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still in here. He was in here earlier, but we're 2 hours in, so if he's not here, I don't blame him. But he'd be a good person to answer that. What do you see talking to people?
We don't see any real durability concerns. If you're in the 700 rear wheel or lower. The hardest thing on the tranny was like the 6.7, 7.8. Wide open throttle shifts. It just doesn't like those, So, most trucks can't do that because of drive shaft speeds and everything. So, in general, we see now, I drive one every day, just 34,000 miles on it. And I got it on the E85 running pretty good and no problems.
Let's talk about 6 rib versus 10 rib on these cars, because I get that question a lot, and Ben just asked about that. What have you seen, Dustin, as far as the lowest, the smallest pulley on the 6 rib? I usually tell people 3.5 works consistently.
Yeah,
3.3 gets kind of iffy.
Yeah, if you're going to do smaller than 3.5, usually you should do a textured pulley like Grip Deck or something, because it really comes down to the idler plate. You need the extra idler on the feed side of the blower pulley, which the 10 rib version has. There's more chance of belt squeak and stuff like that, is why we don't have it in there on the regular kits, is because the pulleys are all so close together that if there's any misalignment, you'll get a belt squeak. And we dealt with that in the 15. We don't want to deal with that again. So on the 10 rib, it's not much of a problem, because they're usually all higher horsepower applications.
Gotcha. Ben says, I said that one. Ford Deep says he needs a Whipple intercooler for his Explorer ST. We've got our Explorer ST. That was the first one, I think, to bolt one on. Mike was probably the first, because it was the prototype, but first production one. And we haven't had that truck out in a while, but it's got the new injectors, new fuel pump. It runs on full E85. It's got 4 drag radials on it. It is mean. I had a bad axle in it that he's dropping it off next week for that. So expect some new videos on that soon. You guys got those intercoolers in stock?
We do. Yeah, we even got the casted tanks now, which is even nicer than the sheet metal.
Dorian chimed in. What did I assume your trans is built by now. Where did you see it fail or start to give up? 8 rib versus 10 rib.
Yeah,
You don't offer any 8 rib stuff, do you? You skipped right
no,
to
because
10.
you got to change everything anyway, so you might as well just go to the 10 rib, and there's all the, every belt is available in the sizes we need, so there's just no reason to go to 8.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I mean, I guess at some point they may have done 8 ribs. I think 8 rib became popular in centrifugals because of spacing.
Yeah.
You have spacing concerns, but on a twin screw you have pretty good flexibility on the pulley sizes. So, crusher inlet, is it necessary to make 800 wheel on an 0304 Cobra, or does it just provide room to grow?
No, on the 85, it's not, you can do it on gas. It's a little more limited, but you can definitely do it. The throttle body, as long as you're running the monoblade style throttle body versus the stock dual bore, that's the biggest restriction first. The inlet becomes after that. And then you can definitely make that.
And then what does the crusher add on a setup like that? It's been a while.
It's usually like about 75 horsepower range at the same pulley. It really does open it up. Which
gets you up in the upper 800s, 900. And realistically, with an 03 Cobra, you don't really want to go too much past that with a stock computer. So unless you're going standalone, the computer doesn't really keep up much above 900. I've tried. What suspension mods to keep the rear end happy in a Gen 5 RC SB F-150? I'm not really a suspension expert on F-150s. Dorian chimed in there, though. Full vast setup. Works great. Let's see. What else we got? Well, this is a good question. I already know the answer to this, but tell us why. Do you see any chance of a cog drive setup for the GT500 platform?
No, I don't think so. I don't like the cogs at all. That's the last case scenario. If you can't get something to work, you go to a cog. But there's until we, with the textured pulleys and what we know about idlers and everything, and we can still go bigger on the crank pulley a little bit. So
cog gets really tricky. I would guess even worse on a twin screw, maybe with, not having.
And odd question here, but isn't like cog like prone to like ripping cranks out of stuff too? Like isn't like very aggressive? It's a figure.
You actually want some belt slip. When you decel, you got a lot of inertia, and so if you got a cog, nothing slips. The blower, the crank, nothing. So something's going to give at some point. So cog that's why we don't like it, because it just breaks like one thing after another. It's like 100 fuses just going one after another.
Dorian chimed in on his F-150. He said he was over 900 rural horsepower with 400 total passes when his started to slip. So that goes to show you.
He ran it hard.
Very strong. He runs his car a lot. Let's see. Eric asks Dustin, blower oil change interval. It says I don't know this. It says recommended at 100. Should you do it sooner, you think?
Yeah, if you are leaving the stock blower pulley on and normal driving in normal environments, then 100,000 miles, no problem. If you start spinning faster, then you want to definitely change them sooner. So
yeah, that makes total sense, because you don't want a guy that just puts a regular standard kit on his car to have to change blower oil all the time. So you set it up to do that, but anytime you run something hard, it's a good idea to service it much sooner. So what would you like? These guys that are making 900 to 1,000 horsepower. What would you say how often they should change it?
I'd say closer to about 25,000 miles.
Okay. Anthony Ballard says, "What's up, bitches?" That's surprising. This guy has a 2014 GT with a Roush 2.3 making 550 wheel. Think I can hang on the street with a 10-second to 11-second cars from a dig? Yeah, probably. I mean, you could probably make a lot more power with it if you want to push that thing a little bit, but the Gen 1s are a little fragile, so unless you plan on building a motor, maybe not. But yeah, I mean, that 550 should be well, think about it this way. We have NA cars with under 500 going, low 11s, high 10s. They're light, but so yeah, you can get there.
Speaking of
It'd be a
Gen
lot
1,
faster with a Whipple on it. What?
did Rob tell you what we made with a Gen 1 turbo car with 6R80 the other day with 130,000 miles on it?
No.
Made 750.
You're lucky it didn't totally disintegrate.
Yep, 130,000 miles still together.
Let's see what else we got here. Jeans Mob asks about the race porting, the 3.8. Let's talk about blower porting in general. I don't think that's something you normally offered in the past, was it?
Yeah, no,
This is kind of a new thing.
We have our entry level right now. So there's two different kind of porting. Some people get confused. Is what we're porting is the main area for port timing and for rotor filling, not actually porting the inlet shape. That's a separate deal. We're working on that. We have a couple of 5-axis machines that we want to utilize for that, but we do the real meat and potatoes, which is the area that we know makes massive differences at higher RPM.
Yeah, I was checking that out on Andrew's setup. Now, some of the other porting that you would traditionally do on the inlet, I mean, on the rear feed 3.8, I don't you think there's much there? It's so huge, that elbow,
There's definitely a little bit there. Some of it's, because we made it 2-piece, so you have a flange. So the short turn side is, could be massaged a little bit, in that area. And you could, of course, all the little bumps and divots that we got to do to clear the firewall and everything, it could be massaged. There's definitely something there. Not a lot, but there's definitely something there.
Let's talk about this real quick, because I've had some people ask this question to me before. Just talking generally about spinning a blower by hand, whether it's how hard it is, what noise it makes, what they look like after it's run on the car. This guy asked, are they supposed to make noise spinning by hand brand new? I've seen some guy on the post on the forums, and answers are all over saying yes because of the coating.
Yeah. So there's you can't tell anything about a blower by turning it by hand. A Roots is a 1-to-1 ratio. Screw compressor is 3, 4, 4, 5, 4, 6 combo. So you actually, is like a transmission, you have a step up in there. So you're actually feels like it takes more, but really has nothing to do with it when it's actually in operation. So that's usually the first thing. And then coating, the way we do our coating is different than pretty much everybody else. It's a conformal coating. It's made to conform, obviously, to the environment. So if you're running a 7-pound application, it'll just never touch because it's enough clearance there. If you run 35 pounds of boost, it's gonna mesh more, and it's gonna push down the high sides. The way we time them is what makes noise when you're turning them. So that the material is a PTFE Teflon, and we time them to the max backside. And so the rotors are actually physically touching, but it's only the coating, not the actual aluminum below it. And that's how we get our proper ratios for splits and how we time them, down the assembly line. So yeah, they do make a noise when you turn them. You run them, for a couple of minutes, an hour, they'll be completely quiet from then on when we turn it by hand, but definitely not worth arguing about, because a lot of people somehow, I've seen some videos, some supercharger manufacturers turning it on going, "Ooh, look at this. It's amazing," and it has nothing to do with it.
I love seeing people pick apart little details of things. It happens to me all the time on tuning, where people will pick out a log and they'll pick out a number here, a number there. And I could get on there and explain things to them, sort of like how you just did. And maybe you helped some of your competition with that explanation. But people go, "Why don't you get in there and defend yourself?" And I'm like, because if I explain myself, I'm going to give them information that they're going to benefit off of. So let them think that I don't know what I'm doing. Let them think that something's wrong with my product, and we'll just keep kicking butt. And that seems, it's kind of a similar topic. And the reason I ask is because people have asked me that after taking a blow off a car. They look at the rotors and there's maybe some wear or marks, but it's minor, and it's from that.
As long as there's not transferring aluminum, that's obviously transferring aluminum is bad, but they're made. We have an asymmetric profile, so the rotor clearance is not even all the way through. So we have a sweeper section that is the steel. That spot is much closer than anywhere else around the rotors. Everywhere else it's open to get more displacement, but sweeper spot is what really seals every time it goes by the rotor. And that is where, it's going to get the tightest possible. So higher boost, higher RPM is what makes the rotor, either flex or grow a little bit more because of temperature.
James Birch asks, 2015 with a 3.0 Whipple, 3625 pulley on 93. Air fuel is 10.0. Car runs rich, still when normal driving. Can we pulley down on a current tune? The answer to that's no. Because of the reasoning that you said. Just because when the car's rich on a current tune and you add a pulley, it's probably, unless you run out of fuel pump or something, it's probably still going to be rich because the mass air meter is going to see more flow and it's probably going to be off in the same way. You're already on a 3625. Oh, this is a 2015. Okay. 2018, you definitely don't want to get too aggressive with pulley because of the compression ratio. 15, still high, but 3625 is probably fine on 93. I wouldn't go any lower. So if the short answer is if you're seeing a true 10.0 at watt and you don't have, I would contact your tuner. How about that? If we're the tuner, I'm sorry, James, if we're your tuner, I don't recognize your name off the top, but of my head, but just contact us.
A 3625 on a 3.0 is actually like pretty rowdy.
Yeah, that is on a 3.0. That is getting pretty rowdy.
Yeah,
it's a 15, but still, yeah, that's probably too much pulley, man. What is the stock pulley on that 3.8, right? On a 3.0?
3.875, yeah.
875.
Stage 2, yeah.
Yeah, so, you're a couple steps down. You might actually be better off going back to a 3.75. Talk to your tuner. See where you're at. Is there a chart limit of torque horsepower that a 6, 8, 10 rib can withstand? It's not really a matter of like the power level. That's going to be very specific, and it's not going to be specific to 3.8 Whipple exactly, because you're going to have a 3.8 Whipple on Andrew's car that has a little different setup than say what's on my 2020 GT500 or a Mustang GT. All that's a factor. It really comes down to well, I'm sure any question gets complicated, but really it comes down to like how much torque it takes to spin the blower, right? And,
what generally breaks the belts is not the torque the motor's making. It's usually the acceleration or deceleration rate, that causes the issue, so rev limiters, obviously a really aggressive rev limiter hit, will make the belt, really, elastic, elastic shape to it. And that's what will snap them, generally speaking. So really soft rev limiters and not hitting the rev limiters is even better. Right. So, that's the one disadvantage to a positive displacement is you got that belt on there.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. We're way over 2 hours, guys. So I know there's a lot of comments coming through still. But we're going to call it here in just a few minutes. Ben wants to know if it's worth porting his, he just recently did the Gen 5 3-liter, like a regular Mustang GT kit. Is there much gains there in porting those? Like I know, like say on Carlos's, we've gained quite a bit, and that's a Cobra Jet style blower, but do we see similar gains on a GT blower?
Yeah. So the delta point is usually around 11,000 RPM. So if you're not spinning at, past 11,000 or you're not consistently past 11,000 blower speed, then there's no really reason to port it. But if you're spinning a lot of time over 11,000 blower speed, then the porting definitely helps.
Well, what's the blower speed off the top of your head for like a stock GT, like a 3.8? Oh yeah, you can do that while I'm looking at comments.
Let's see here. Is 12.6 on an 18, 18 GT Mustang would be
right. So chances, so you're already there.
But
almost.
If you were running, the 3.5 or running just an 8-inch balance or something like that, then it starts becoming definitely worthwhile.
Gotcha. 3.1 TVS thoughts. This guy wants to know what you think. That's kind of an you can't really answer that fairly, but you can. I mean, let's talk about it from a tech deal. I mean, obviously it's a bigger blower. Well, here's my question. I've heard that based on just the general idea of a TVS, that as you go larger, it becomes increasingly, like in your case with a twin screw, go bigger and bigger and bigger, and you should be able to really keep things happy.
Right.
Is there something, I don't know where I'm getting this from in my head. Is there something specific about the TVS that makes the larger that much more challenging compared to a twin screw?
No, it's about it's similar technology in general that you can, they're scalable in general.
Okay.
They still have boost limitations. You know, as the higher the boost is where the TVS starts to fall off faster than low boost. It's a really good pump at lower boost levels. It's really good at low speeds. And it's good at high speeds as well, but it really does well down there. Yeah, it's going to be a good blower. You know, that's why obviously we had been working on already a newer generation, slightly bigger displacement, is knowing that this blower was coming. You know, so yeah, we're not too worried about it, but it's going to be a good blower. I mean, you'll see then the 265 will just go away, you know, just like before. We just always feel it's funny because they always say, you don't need a bigger blower. This is the biggest blower you ever need, right? And that was, you know,
until you kick their butt.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, 3.1, where did that one come from, right? It's the same as where the 3.2 came from, right? It's like, yeah.
But here's the key point in all this, and I'm not really giving anybody a hard time because there's TVS companies out there I actually like, but this is the difference, right? There's a 3.1 TVS coming, so whoever builds TVS Superchargers is probably sitting there going, I can't wait until Eaton builds me some new rotors. Except Dustin is over there, and Dustin, I'm sure, knows a lot about this, but he has a team of engineers and everything. But you guys make your rotors in-house, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we design them in-house.
I mean, come on, guys.
Here.
Like,
you know,
I
can tweak the profile tomorrow and literally cut a set. You know, we got 2 rotor cutting machines now.
I have a really bad, awful joke I can't say, but I'm going to tell you about it after we get off. But no, seriously, you know, I mean, talk about being in control of your own destiny. You know,
exactly.
You guys don't do all your own castings, of course. That's a huge undertaking. So not most people don't do their own castings. But the key, well, you design it. It's just, you know, casting's a big deal.
Yeah.
But the rotors,
be able to make them, you know, we can test just consistent, you know, whenever we want to, like I said, we want to cut them. We've cut so many different rotors. Like I lost count at this point, just the 3-liter generation, just to get to the next level. We've been cutting just
right. Well, and that's what
different versions. Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. Like, and that's, I think, the main difference that gives you a huge advantage over Eaton and TVS, because they could do all their testing they want, all the math they want. It doesn't matter. Once that thing gets out in the wild, I guarantee they're going to learn something that they're going to go, man, you know, that's pretty good. But, well, guess what? You can go, oh, man, I'm going to fix that tomorrow. And then just fix it or fix it. Not that there's something wrong, but it's just the evolution, your evolution and turnaround on your, you know, each generation, which you use that word, is just light speed ahead of them. I mean, there's just so much red tape into coming out with a new deal like that, and the things that limit them, right? Because they're building these things. Where does, you would know this, where does Eaton make their money off of? Selling TVS rotors to like the aftermarket companies, or it's probably the OEM, right?
It's all OEM.
It's all
the
OEM.
Aftermarket. It's just
the other stuff's just like
ego and
a
stuff,
bonus, you know? So,
exactly.
You know, you're taking an OEM product and making a great performance blower out of it, but it's still limited by the evolution and design of OEM and the time it takes for that stuff to come out. Like, if you were involved in the TVS, you could have probably those 3.1 rotors out way long time ago, but they have all this extra crap they have to go through with the OEMs. Yeah.
It's a big, you know, they're just such a big corporation too. You know, that's the advantage. We're still, even though we have, you know, 60 employees, I'm still here every night, you know, working. I work Saturdays, Sundays. I'll never get outworked. And, you know, we stay ahead of the curve as much as possible. You know, we fell behind years ago, but we've since just tried to stay on the throttle. We're, you know, it didn't matter if the 3-liter was beating the 265 in every application out there. We were still already working on the next generation, because it's, you know, we knew they weren't going to come out with something at some point, because, you know, they were, you know, lose them.
Yeah,
So-
and and that's why I like working with you, because and I've told people this before. I go, I don't even know if Dustin cares about making money, because he's so focused on kicking everybody's ass that it's just like, I'm making money, but that's not why I do this. And that's why I do this.
Change.
Like, I mean, I don't make money anyway, so it's good that I don't care about that, but I do okay. But that's not my motivation. In fact, like, the more success we get with Palm Beach Dyno, that only makes me more hungry to do like more things. It's like interesting. It's not about the money. It's about like just learning and kicking everybody's butt. And like, I'm just super competitive. I can compete on any topic. I'm super glad that I got into cars before I got competitive on something stupid. Cause I would have, I guarantee it. Anyway, let's wrap it up here real quick. Thanks to everybody who threw a little tip in here. We appreciate it. Who's being rude?
Oh, someone's saying something weird. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, he's an idiot.
Ash sent in 99 cents. I don't know why.
Was
My
that
girlfriend.
Oh, thanks. She's so nice. We got 63 cents of that after YouTube takes their cut. Anyway, I might have deleted more comments. I think I deleted something that I wasn't supposed to. Oh, yeah, I deleted somebody that said, I really appreciate having the ability to pick your minds. Sorry about that. Anyway, we're going to wrap it up here, guys. I mean, we're 2 hours into it. I'm sure Dustin's super busy. He's still at work. I'm at home. I'm going to turn around and I'm in my living room. Appreciate Andrew coming, Cody. We'll keep you guys updated on those. As far as our YouTube channel, please subscribe to our channel, share these videos, like them. I love the live feed thing, but we're going to be getting back into our normal production schedule with our regular videos. We're even going to probably try to do a little bit more vlog style type stuff too, not just tech videos. So keep an eye out for that. It'll probably hit full steam in January, but we're ramping that up now. So anyway, thanks for coming, guys. And
thanks for having me.
Yep, no problem. I appreciate it. I appreciate your guys' support down there, and definitely your support from the beginning of Palm Beach Dyno. You've had my back, and I appreciate that, Dustin. And we'll see you guys on the next one.
All right, see you guys.
Later, guys.
All right, the stream's off.